Shalom. So a lot of people are getting upset about the word, which is only further proving how close we are, or how close we're getting to the end. I know we've gone through this stuff over and over and over again, but people just don't want to hear it. I want to show you guys something. I'm going to read it out of Hosea chapter 12. It says, Ephraim feedeth on wind and followeth after the east wind. He daily increaseth lies and desolation. And they that do make a covenant with the Assyrians, and oil is carried into Egypt. Yahweh hath also a controversy with Judah, and will punish Jacob according to his ways, according to his doings, and will recompense him. He took his brother by the heel in the womb, and by his strength he had power with Yahweh. Yea, he had power over the angel and prevailed. Now, clearly we know this is talking about Jacob and Esau wrestling in the womb of Rebekah. Verse 4 says, Yea, he had power over the angel and prevailed and wept and made much supplication unto him. So in Genesis, when Jacob is wrestling with this man named Phanuel, well, Hosea chapter 12 tells us it's an angel. Okay, so we know also the angel just touches the hollow of Jacob's thigh. And then the book of Jasher tells us that Jacob limped for the rest of his life. Again, and I know these other pastors and people, they're not interested in the fact that we have found truth, not only in the Dead Sea Scrolls, Jubilees, Enoch, Jasher, all these books that people deny. Even without those, they're still denying the 66 book canon. Okay, so in this same chapter that we're in, I'm going to reread verse 4. It says, Yea, he had power over the angel and prevailed, and he wept and made much supplication unto him. And he found him in Bethel, and there he spake with us. So when it says he found him, meaning the angel in Bethel, it says, there he spake with us. So an angel spake with them in Bethel. Even Yahweh of hosts, and Yahweh is his memorial. Therefore turn thou to thy Elohim, keep mercy and judgment, and wait on Yahweh continually. Verse 7 starts off talking about merchants. Okay? So it says, He is a merchant. The balances of deceit are in his hand, and he loveth to oppress. And Ephraim said, Yet am I become rich. I have found me out substance in all the labors. They shall find no iniquity in me. And I am the Elohim Yahweh. From the land of Egypt will I yet make thee dwell in the tabernacles, as in the days of the solemn feast. I have also spoken by the prophets, and I have multiplied visions and used similitudes by the ministry of the prophets. So he's telling us that he has spoken in visions. He's used similitudes in the ministry of the prophets. So there is stuff that's hidden from most people's eyes, right? In their iniquity in Gilead, surely they are vanity. They sacrifice bullocks in Gilgal. Yea, their altars are as heaps in the furrows of the field. And Jacob fled into the country of Syria, and Israel served for a wife. And for a wife he kept sheep. And by a prophet, Yahweh brought Israel out of Egypt, and by a prophet he was preserved. Ephraim provoked him to anger most bitterly. Therefore shall he leave his blood upon him, and his reproach shall his master return unto him. Now, Ephraim mixed seed, so did Judah, so did Solomon, but they were all punished for doing this. Now, I've been watching the going back and forth with the people that are talking and saying all of this stuff about the serpent seed is false doctrine and all of this other stuff. Anywhere you read merchant in Scripture, and let me flip this around, you're going to find something pretty interesting in here. So right here, the he is part is not in the actual text, but it says he is a merchant, right? So when I click on merchant, it says merchant, and then it says Kenan, which is Canaan, and then it tells you that that's the Canaanite, okay? So we know that the merchants and the Canaanites, according to Zechariah 14, are not going to enter the congregation of Yahweh forever. People like to quote the part where it says to the 10th generation, or even to the 10th generation, but they don't quote the forever part for a reason. And again, it just boils down to people being disingenuous with what Scripture says. And what I've noticed is everybody loves Yahweh until they meet something in their life that requires them to separate with something that they love more than Him. And that's when the slandering and all this other stuff starts. If I were to teach everything except the genealogies and who Canaan is, nobody would have a problem with me, Michael, or anyone else. But because we're not partial to the law, and again, the law states that you are not to take your sons and daughters and marry them to their sons and daughters. It's an abomination to Yahweh. But these people that claim to love Yahweh so much, when you read them that part, their fangs come out. And this is why in the New Testament the Messiah warned us, and he said, if you place anything before the kingdom, you're not worthy to enter the kingdom. And what he was talking about was anything that you make more important than keeping the law and commandments, everything that Yahweh states that we have to do, if we say, oh, I'll do all of it except for this, do you think Yahweh is going to say, oh, I understand you did everything else, but this part you knew and you disobeyed anyway? We can go all the way back to Genesis, right? Where Judah marries a Canaanite woman and has 2 children by her, right? What does Yahweh do? He strikes both of them dead. Why? Because of Genesis chapter 4. It's not in Canaan to do well. And people don't like this either. It's something that they're going to have to come to terms with one way or another. So they're either going to come to truth by hearing the word, or they're going to come to truth the hard way when these nations come in, as the prophets tell us, and they start dashing their families into pieces, as they're doing in other countries already, which again, people think, well, it's happening in Africa and it's happening in this country and that country, but it's not going to happen here until it does. And again, if your eyes are open and your ears are open just a little bit and you look around at the world, I've been teaching on this for a long time and some way longer than I have, but we know about how that land that they call the Promised Land, we know who established the land. We know that there was a declaration that was set forth that land was purchased and named Israel. But the problem with that is in Scripture it tells us that the land that was promised to Abraham is the land of Canaan. So how anywhere in Scripture, if somebody can show me that land in the north above Africa is the promised land or the land that was given to Jacob, because it's not. And all of these other nations, like the children of Heth and all of that, I have all of the genealogies right in front of me. And the reason I'm pointing this stuff out is because I think it's important. So let's look at 1 Chronicles 1:13 through 16. And I might mess up some of these because they're hard to read. But starting in verse 13, it says, "And Canaan begat Zideon, his firstborn, and Heth." Who are the children of Heth? The offspring of Canaan. We can trace all of this back because we have the lineages, right? Heth, the Jebusite, also and the Amorite, and the Girgashite, and the Hivite, and the Arkite, and the Sinite, and the Avradite, and the Zemarite, and the Hamathite. So, when we look at 1 Chronicles 1:13 through 16, aren't those all of the same exact nations? They're renamed slightly. But when we go back into Genesis, when Yahweh was telling the children of Israel, or the Hebrew people, not to leave man, woman, child, beast, anything alive, wasn't it talking about the people that I just listed off in 1 Chronicles 1:13 through 16? Aren't those the same nations? And if we're wrong, let's look at Zechariah 14:21 really quickly. And again, this Zechariah is a future prophecy. And technically, I guess we could read the whole chapter, but the very last verse says, "Yea, every pot in Jerusalem and in Judah shall be holiness unto Yahweh of hosts, and they that sacrifice shall come and take of them, and seethe therein. And in that day there shall no more be the Canaanite in the house of Yahweh of hosts." If Canaan, or Cain, because this goes back to Genesis chapter 3, what I want to ask is, in Genesis, when Adam is being made, in Genesis chapter 2, Yahweh forms Adam from the dust of the ground and then breathes the Ruach into his nostrils, right? Then we see the Father puts Adam to sleep, and then Adam, while he's sleeping, Eve is created, and then when Adam wakes up, Adam says, "This is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh." Now, if I were to have a child, if I have a child with someone who is of Israel, who looks just like me, the same flesh, is that child going to come out a different color? Because this is the question that nobody's willing to really be honest with themselves about. We go back to Genesis and we see Adam and Eve, the first two that were created. And out of them come two children. So where did all the other races of the earth come from? Nobody seems to have an answer for this either. And again, I've seen all of the arguments where people want to run in. If people want to talk about phenotypes, I can do that all day long. There are 150 different attributes to the body of the Israelite and the Canaanite. 150 different things that either Yahweh messed up on or were created because the fallen created their own bloodline. So we've gone through Genesis. We've talked about all of this stuff before. But what people don't realize is it's not just in Genesis. It's in Jasher. It's in Jubilee. It's in Enoch. The Messiah's said it over and over again. He's come only for the lost sheep of the house of Israel, right? And then, here, let me go to that really quickly. Matthew 15. "And behold, a woman of Canaan came out the same coast and cried unto him, saying, Have mercy on me, O master, thou son of David. My daughter is grievously vexed with a devil. But he answered her not a word." Now, isn't this interesting that the Messiah has been going around and laying hands on people and healing everyone that's coming up to him? But a woman who is of Canaan, and this is truly a Canaanite woman, he doesn't answer her a word. "And his disciples came besotting him, saying, Send her away. She crieth after us, as if she's dirt." Verse 24, "But he answered and said, I am not sent, but unto or for the lost sheep of the house of Israel." Now, is there a house of Esau? Yes. Is there a house of Heth? Yes. Is there a house of the Canaanite? Yes. Do the prophets tell us what's going to happen with all these people? Yes. Do people love to deny that? Yes. This is why a remnant will be saved. Verse 25. Then she, the Canaanite woman, came and worshipped him, saying, Master, help me. But he answered and said, It is not meet to take the children's bread. Now remember the woman that grabbed the Messiah, and it says that virtue went out of him? So that virtue that was going out of him, he was able to take on the infirmities and everything as he was laying hands on people because there was no sin in him. It couldn't affect his body. That's how he was able to touch the lepers and all of the people that were sick. He wasn't afraid to touch them because he was blameless. And the only way that a demon can vex somebody or make someone ill or sick or have the palsy or whatever it is if that person has sin. And that's exactly what the Messiah did. He would lay hands on people and he would say, now go and sin no more, lest something worse befalls you. So that tells us that there are demons that go into people, and those demons have the ability to alter that person's body or their state, right? And that's not to say that, like, if you physically injured yourself, that you have a demon. But we know that demons can manipulate the human body. We see it all throughout Scripture. So this woman now is worshiping at the Messiah's feet, and she's saying, Master, help me. And he answers her and says, It is not meet to take the children's bread and cast it to dogs. Now that's a pretty harsh thing to say. We don't see him saying this to anyone else in this manner, right? And again, Scripture has to interpret Scripture. So in order for us to understand who the dogs are, we would have to find another place where it says that there are dogs. And we would have to assume that the Canaanites are dogs according to the Messiah's own words. And we would also have to assume, based on Psalms, when the Messiah says that dogs encompassed him, and bulls, mighty bulls of Bashan, surrounded him. We would only be left to assume the Og of Bashan was part of the fallen, and the dogs had to have been the children of Canaan, as we're seeing right here in Matthew 15. Verse 27, And she said, Truth, Master, yet the dogs eat the crumbs which fall from their master's table. Now, people will say, well, this is metaphorically speaking. He's calling her a dog, and dogs do eat crumbs from people's tables, and they give them scraps and all of that. That's not what he's saying here, though, right? Because he answers her, and he said, It is not meet to take the children's bread and cast it to dogs. And on top of this, we know the Messiah says, not to cast your pearls before the dogs, the Canaanites, because they will turn around and rend that knowledge, those pearls, and then they will rend you, which means end your life. So when I see Israelites calling their brothers and sisters dogs, it makes me cringe, because it's like, that's not a good thing to be saying to a brother or a sister in the faith, right? But I'm not saying anything that the Messiah didn't say, and I don't go around calling anyone a dog. But this is how our Messiah spoke, is my point. So when she says this, because of her faith, you have to remember, the Messiah was trying to teach his disciples things, and they just weren't getting it, right? They do get it eventually, but they weren't getting it. He kept testing them and saying, Oh, ye of little faith, how long do I have to bear with you? And we see Peter getting out of the boat and sinking into the water, which that's a whole nother story in itself. But nonetheless, we see that this woman's faith is what moves the Messiah. And we can take this back to Genesis chapter 4, when Cain his facial expression changes, and Yahweh says, Cain, why is your face changing? Why is your countenance fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted? So in this case, all authority has been given to Yeshua the Messiah. And because of this woman's faith and the lack of the faith thereof that he was seeing, he was moved by this. And he says to her, then Yeshua answered and said unto her, O woman, great is thy faith. Be it unto thee even as thou wilt. And her daughter was made whole from that very hour. Now, when Abraham becomes the father of many nations, doesn't it say that all nations of the earth will be blessed because of Abraham's seed, Isaac? And again, I tried to share this earlier with another guy. Going back into the book of Genesis, let's go into Genesis and let's look at a couple different things, because Genesis is where we get our foundation for understanding what was happening. And in that time, we know that Abraham, starting in Genesis 20, Abraham was starting to sojourn in a land, the land of Canaan, right? And the Canaanites were in that land, okay? And then in Genesis 21, we see that Abraham is visited, and there's some controversy back and forth with Hagar, seeing the mocking that's happening and all of that. And Hagar casts the bondwoman, Sarai casts the bondwoman out. And then the Messiah, the angel of Yahweh, shows up to Hagar and tells her that he's going to multiply her seed. It says in verse 13, and also the son of the bondwoman will I make a nation, because he is thy seed. Now, Yahweh only would bless Hagar's son Ishmael if he were of Israel. Okay, so it says, and Abraham rose up early in the morning and took bread and a bottle of water and gave it to Hagar, putting it on her shoulder, and the child was sent away, and she departed and wandered into the wilderness of Beersheba. And then she's spent with water, she's out of water, and she cast the child under the shrubs. And she went and sat down over against him in a good way off. It was about a bow shot away, for she said, let me not see the death of the child. And she sat over against him and lifted up her voice and wept. And Yahweh heard the voice of the lad. And the angel of Yahweh called to Hagar out of heaven and said unto her, what aileth thee, Hagar? Is there any place in Scripture where we see angels appearing to anyone except for Israel? Anywhere. Any of the children of Heth or Canaan, any of the descendants of Cain. Do angels appear to them and help them? No. So Hagar is a child of Israel. It's pretty clear. He says, fear not, for Yahweh hath heard the voice of the lad where he is. Arise, lift up the lad and hold him in thy hand, for I will make him a great nation. And Yahweh opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water, and she went and filled the bottle with water and gave it to the lad to drink. And Yahweh was with the lad, and he grew and dwelt in the wilderness and became an archer. So we know how in Jasher it says that Sarah sends Hagar out again after this because Ishmael is aiming a bow at Isaac. So that explains quite a bit, right? But people say, well, Jasher's not scripture. Nonetheless. And he dwelt in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took him a wife out of the land of Egypt. So Ishmael is marrying into the Egyptian race, which is where the Muslim race comes from, which is provable today. This is a provable thing that you could do today. You could take a child of Israel and marry them to a true-blooded Egyptian, and you will get the Muslim race. But people don't like to look at this stuff because they just say, oh no, this is serpent seed. We can't listen to this. This is terrible. Nonetheless, the angel appears back again later on and talks to Hagar and says, I'm going to multiply your child's seed, Ishmael. I'm going to multiply him. I'm going to make him a great nation of 12 princes. And out of those 12 princes, he does become those 12 princes, and we have the genealogies to prove that. But the angel says that that child is going to butt heads with every nation, and he will be a wild man, which is the attributes of Ishmael, which is what we're seeing in our country right now. It's just the beginning of the locust army. The end of the locust army is Cain. The beginning is Ishmael, which is why people are seeing all of these different colored flags, which all have the same colors on them, by the way. So when I say our borders are open and all these people are coming through and they're telling you who they are, some are from Philistia, some are from Ethiopia. Nobody seems to understand that all of these European countries all over the earth, right now, today, are being overtaken by Ishmael and his offspring. Why? Because he married an Egyptian woman. And then later on, we'll get there in a second. Let's go to Genesis 22, and we'll go down to verse 11, and it says, "And the angel of Yahweh called unto him, Abraham, out of heaven, and said unto Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here I am. And he said, Lay not thy hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything to him, for I know that thou fearest Yahweh." So this is the angel speaking to him. Agency. "Seeing thou hast not withheld thy son, thy only son from me." Question. Did Abraham have Ishmael or Isaac first? Because Isaac is about to be sacrificed, right? This is what's happening in the context of Genesis chapter 22. Abraham's about to sacrifice his son, and then an angel speaks out of heaven and says, Abraham, do not lay your hand on the lad. It was a test. But he says something very interesting. "Seeing thou hast not withheld thy son, thine only son from me." Question. Does Yahweh look upon Ishmael as a son? If you don't read this scripture carefully and slowly, you're not going to understand who the locust army is. And again, they're called grasshoppers and cankerworms and paler worms and locusts. And the book of Revelation summarizes this in Revelation chapter 9. But because people lack the understanding of going back and reading, even with the debate Michael had the other night, which wasn't much of a debate, but Michael asked that guy, if you're going to bring up stones, we need to go find out where Scripture says there are stones and what those stones are. Right? So all of these things have meaning. So Abraham stops, and the angel provides a ram caught in the thicket by the horns. And Abraham names the place Jehovah Jireh. And then, let's just keep going. I'm just trying to give a brief summary of this as we go through. Genesis 24, verse 1, it says, "And Abraham was old and well stricken in age." So now he's got Ishmael and he's got Isaac, and he's well stricken in age and he's about to pass. Okay? And it says, "And Yahweh had blessed Abraham in all things." And Genesis 26, 1 through 4 tells us why. Because Abraham obeyed Yahweh, kept his charge, his statutes, his laws, and his commandments. That's why the land is given to Isaac. But nonetheless, verse 2 says, "And Abraham said unto his eldest servant of his house, that ruled over all that he had, Put, I pray thee, your hand under my thigh, and I will make thee to swear by Yahweh of heaven, and the Elohim of the earth, and thou shalt not take a wife unto my son of the daughters of the merchants," the Canaanites, "among whom I dwell." So where is Abraham? He's in the land of Canaan amongst who? The Canaanites. Don't worry, we'll go back to the beginning of Genesis to clarify Noah's 3 sons and how the land was divided up so we can make this crystal clear for everybody. So verses 1 through 3, Abraham makes his servant, the ruler over his house, makes him swear to Yahweh of heaven that he will not go and take a wife for his son Isaac from the daughters of the Canaanite women, among whom he's dwelling. Verse 4, but thou shalt go unto my country and to my kindred, and take a wife unto my son Isaac. What is Abraham saying here? Go to my country and to my kindred. What does kindred mean? And take a wife unto my son Isaac. Now, if we just read down a little bit further, we see that the servant goes and he meets a man named Laban. Now, this man in verse 29, and Rebekah had a brother, and his name was Laban. And Laban ran out unto the man unto the well to meet him. So the servant is going out to find Rebekah to marry to Isaac, right? Because that's what takes place in Genesis. And Rebekah's brother is Laban. Now Laban is Strong's 3837, which means white ones, or to be white. There's no way of getting around that. It's just what it says. The Abraham's servant returns back, but in verse 37, the servant is saying, and my master made me swear, saying, thou shalt not take a wife to my son of the daughters of the Canaanites, in whose land I dwell, but thou shalt go unto my father's house. So where is the servant? At Abraham's father's house. Just so we're crystal clear here. Just so we know who Rebekah is and who Isaac is marrying. And to my kindred, and take a wife unto my son. Okay? So now we know that Abraham sent his servant to his father's house of his own kindred to find a wife for Isaac, his son. Okay, I think that's crystal clear. If you don't understand what I'm saying, study Genesis very slowly and understand Canaanites were not allowed to marry Hebrew men. Period. It was forbidden. Even after this. And after they start breaking the laws and commandments, even after this, Yahweh makes it very clear. And why? Well, we'll get into that when we get to Genesis. We'll go back to Genesis 18 and 19, and we'll find out what happens with Lot and all of that. But just let me go through this a little bit more. So as we see, Rebekah returns back, and Sarah has just passed away, and he's in the field meditating and praying. And when Rebekah sees Isaac, she lights off her camel, and they go into Isaac's mother's tent. And it says in verse 67, and Isaac brought her into his mother Sarah's tent and took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. And Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. Okay? It's pretty clear. Now, if we move on to Genesis 25, it says, then again Abraham took a wife, and her name was Keturah. Now, we can go through the genealogies of Keturah if you guys want, but let me continue on with the sons first. Verse 8, then Abraham gave up the ghost and died in a good old age, an old man full of years, and was gathered to his people. And his son Isaac and Ishmael buried him in a cave in the field of the sons of Zohar the Hittite, which was before Mamre. Now this is where all sons of Zohar the Hittite, which was before Mamre. Now this is where all of the patriarchs are buried. All of them in the same spot. The children of Heth, the Hittites, okay? Which are also descendants of the Canaanite. Now, they were on good terms at certain points throughout Scripture, right? We see that when Moses is ruling over the Cushites, that they loved him because he was a good leader. He's blessed, right? All of the nations that come from Abraham would be blessed because of Abraham. And all of the children that were Hebrew, that were before Abraham, were blessed because Yahweh chose them as his peculiar people above all the nations of the earth, or races of the earth. That's what ethnos means. Okay, now, verse 13 says, "And these are the names of the sons of Ishmael by their names according to their generations." And it goes on to tell us all of the names: Ishmael, Nebajoth, Kedar, Abdiel, Mizbaim, Mishma, Duma, Masa, Hadar, Timar, so on and so forth. And it says, "These are the sons of Ishmael, and these are their names by their towns, by their castles, 12 princes, according to their nation." Ethnos, race. Completely different race of people now. Why? Because Hagar married him to an Egyptian woman. Same thing we're about to see with Jacob and Esau. Now, let's go down to verse 20. "And Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Syrian of Pandamaram, the sister to Laban, the Syrian." Now, is Laban a Syrian, or is he a child of the Hebrews? We just read this. If Abraham was a Hebrew man and he sends his servant to go find a wife at his father's house, then who is his father? He's a Hebrew man. But he lives where? In Syria. "And Isaac entreated Yahweh for his wife because she was barren. And Yahweh was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived. And the children struggled together within her, and she said, If it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of Yahweh. And Yahweh said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb." Question: if she's got twins in her womb, and she's only married into her own family, her own people, is it possible for her to have 2 children that are of 2 different races, knowing that her husband is Isaac? Or would that be impossible? Isaac marries Rebekah, all of the same family, and now she's pregnant with twins. And Yahweh says, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. And when her days were to be delivered, were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. Now, if you look up Esau, it says red and ruddy. If we look up David, it says as Esau, red and ruddy at birth. What color was Adam? Red and ruddy. That's what Adom means in Hebrew. Adam means in Hebrew, Adom, which means red and ruddy, to blush and show blood under the skin. So we have from Adam and Eve, but we have a role reversal taking place here. Because in the garden, Eve gives birth to 2 children, which are also twins, but one is Satan's child and one is Adam's child. Now see this, if people can get this, what I'm saying right here, this will make perfect sense. Adam does not just mean man. Adam means to be red and ruddy. Go look it up in Hebrew, my friend. I've done this a million times. Verse 26, and after that came he out his brother, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man dwelling in tents. And Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his venison, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Okay, now, and Esau said to Jacob, Feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. What just happened? Well, Esau was out hunting in the book of Jasher, and Nimrod is there. And Nimrod is with 2 of his men, and the rest of his army is a little bit further away. And Esau comes out with a sword and takes Nimrod's head clean off, and takes the garments, the clothing of skin that was given to Adam and Eve, which is how Nimrod becomes a mighty hunter before Yahweh, right? There was power in those skins. Anyways, Esau takes Nimrod's head off, and now he's on the run from the armies that are after him. This is why he sells his birthright. And Jacob says, "Sell me this day your birthright." And Esau said, "Behold, I am at the point to die." From hunting? No, he's on the run. "And what profit shall this birthright do me?" And Jacob said, "Swear to me this day," and swear unto him. And he sold his birthright unto Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drink, and rose up and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. Ooh, big problem. If you despise your birthright, that means you despise your inheritance, which is given by who? Yahweh. And who is his father? Yahweh's chosen. So it's not simple enough to just say, well, Yahweh hated Esau because he sold his birthright. No, we're about to find out why Yahweh hated Esau. Now, let's go to Genesis 26. "And there was a famine in the land beside the first famine, and that was the days of Abraham. And Isaac went unto Amalek, king of the Philistines, unto Gerar. And Yahweh appeared unto him and said, Go not down into Egypt. Dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee, and I will bless thee. For unto thee and unto thy seed I will give all of these countries." Wonder where they're at. "And I will perform the oath which I swore unto Abraham thy father. And I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of heaven. And I will give unto thee and thy seed all of these countries. And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed." So the same promise that was made to Abraham was now made to Isaac in Genesis 26. Correct? All the countries, all the nations of the earth will be blessed because of Abraham being what? Verse 5. "Because that Abraham obeyed my voice, kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws." Obedience. Abraham had faith in Yahweh, and he was obedient. Faith without works is dead. Nonetheless, we're going to go down some more, and we're going to find out what Esau does. Now, it says in verse 34, "And Esau was 40 years old when he took a wife, Judith, the daughter of Beri the Hittite, a daughter of Heth, descendant of Canaan. And Bashmith, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, another child of Heth, descendant of Canaan, which were a grievance of mind unto Isaac and Rebekah." Why? Because Esau married the very people that Abraham said not to allow Isaac to marry. And this doesn't just happen once. It happens 3 times. So what are they doing? They're mixing their seed. But Jacob doesn't do that, does he? Now, listen to this, Genesis 27. "And it came to pass when Isaac was old, and his eyes were dim, so that he could not see. And he called Esau his eldest son, and said unto him, My son. And he said, Behold, here I am. And he tells him to go off and hunt and get him some venison, right? And this is where they this is where Jacob tricks his father into believing he's Esau by putting on his garment, right? And then verse 37, "And Isaac answered and said unto Esau, Behold, I have made him thy master, and all of his brethren I have given to him for servants, and with corn and wine I have sustained him. And what shall I do now unto thee, my son?" So Esau's crying to Isaac and saying, "What do you mean you gave away my birthright?" And Esau said unto his father, Hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me even also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. Do you think Yahweh was going to bless Esau after he sold his birthright? Not a chance. This is why Rebekah steps in and says, no, this isn't going to happen. Why? Because Esau's married the children of Heth. That's why. Now, verse 46, and Rebekah said to Isaac, I am weary because of my life, because of the daughters of Heth, which is who Esau married. If Jacob take a wife of the daughters of Heth, such as these, which are of the daughters of the land, what good shall my life do me? Now, what did Rebekah just say? I'm weary because of my life. What good will my life do me if our son Jacob also marries these daughters of the Canaanites, the children of Heth? What good will my life do me? Shalom, Michael.
Shalom, bro. Sorry, I was running late. I had a stack of homework to do for my daughter. I'm sorry.
No problem, man. I just want to show. I
And
want to show everybody one more thing in Genesis 28, and then we can get started.
all right.
Genesis 28. And Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and charged him and said unto him, Thou shalt not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. So let's backtrack. Abraham tells his servant not to marry Isaac to any of the daughters of the land of Canaan, right? Then Jacob and Esau are born. And now Isaac is calling Jacob because Esau's already mixed with the children of Heth. And this is the conversation that Isaac and Jacob are having. And Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and charged him and said unto him, You shall not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. Arise, go to Pandamaram, to the house of Bethuel, thy mother's father, which is who? Laban. And take thee a wife from thence of the daughters of Laban, thy mother's brother. Remember Rebekah? That's her brother, Laban. And what is Jacob charging, or Isaac charging Jacob to do? Do not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan, the Hivites, the Hittites, the Jebusites, any of the offspring of Canaan. Don't do it. That's what's being said here. So we see that in verse 8 it says, And Esau, seeing that the daughters of Canaan pleased not Isaac his father, then went Esau unto Ishmael. Ishmael's already mixed seed. And he took wives which he had, Mahaloth, the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son, the sister of Nebajoth, to be his wife. So now Esau has taken that curse into already cursed bloodline. So there's all kinds of mixing going on here, except with Jacob. Now, out of Jacob comes who? The 12 tribes of Israel. And out of those 12 tribes, one child is born, Judah. Out of Judah comes who? Our Messiah. So if you think that all of this preservation of seed was for nothing, then you don't understand the genealogies, why they're here, and you don't understand who the children or the daughters of the Canaanites are. And they are the Ethiopian people. They are the people of Africa, which have also been scattered into all nations. It's not just Israel, people. And so now we have not only the Canaanite to worry about, which is the locusts that are going to come at the very end, but first we have to deal with Ishmael's offspring, which is who? Anyone? The Muslim race. So am I a liar? Or did we just read that from this book? And again, we can get into Ruth, we can get into Rahab, we can get into anything you guys want to get into, but I can assure you that Yahweh does not allow, and when they do, when they disobey Yahweh like Judah does in the very beginning of this book, when Judah goes and marries a Canaanite woman, Yahweh struck those two children dead. So don't think for 1 second that this is some type of game or that the serpent seed doctrine is false, because I'm proving it to you that it's not. Sorry, Michael. Go ahead.
Oh, you have nothing to be sorry about, bro. You finished
No,
doing what you're doing.
I talk a lot, but I wanted to finish that point and make sure that people understand that this was a preserved, protected line.
Oh no, I agree, and I'm about to add to it. But
Awesome.
I know that somebody here is watching us to try to figure out a way to slander us right now. I know it's just how it always goes. So I want to ask you outright, in truth and honesty, we're going to be honest with everybody here between me and you. How often do me and you sit down and just go through scripture together?
Hardly ever.
Hardly ever.
I would
Hardly
say,
ever.
well, I would say that today's the first day that I've sent you a message in probably close to a month. I mean, I've
Yeah,
talked to you on TikTok, but as far as us going through scripture, never.
never. Never. But yet, this is their claims that they'll sit there and say, oh, Michael, Adrian, and Jason, they learn all this stuff from them and they're doing all. No, we just read the scriptures and believe for what it says. And we're both one mind and one understanding because we trust every single word. I don't know why that's such a problem, but yet, that's just one of the false accusations I just wanted to point out. It's as if they're saying that we're sitting here in a cult like behavior going through scripture trying to figure out whatever we can to push this doctrine, and that's just not the truth at all. We barely talk, and it's very rare, and unless we do talk, we're usually pointing out things that are happening in the world.
Yeah. And this is the thing that I was saying earlier that I've noticed is everybody says that they follow Yahweh, that they love Yahweh until they find out something in the law that doesn't fit their lifestyle, and then all of a sudden we're the bad guys for it. So I don't, whatever people want to say, let them say it. But my main thing is when I came into this, and I'll just be completely transparent. When I came into this, I didn't believe it either. And I studied it, and still to this day, I'm always checking for every little thing that I can. I look up everything possible. I tried for a good probably 2 years to disprove this. When Yahweh showed me what was going on, I said, there's no way this is true. And then I started studying and applying myself, and then I started realizing the more I was trying to disprove it, the more it was becoming true. So it's not an easy pill to swallow by any means, but I would say anybody that's coming against you, Michael, they have no idea what you've gone through and the things that you've had to do, and you've kept silent, which I commend you for, but I don't think people understand that those of us that love Yahweh, we're doing what Yahweh wants us to do. When he says to do something, we do it. It's that simple.
This is what it is. I try not to bring that up, and I have my reasons why, but one of these days I will, just to put it in their face, because they have no idea my life, what I've went through, and what I've had to lose. They know none of that. I lost everything, guys, and when I say everything, I mean everything. I gave it all up for the Father, and that's why He's revealing all this stuff to me is because I sold out, as all of you should be selling out to Him, not just showing partiality. He's going to cut you off, and that's just the reality of it. I wanted to pull up something really important here in Luke that Messiah said, and I think it's important for everybody.
Okay.
Where's it at? You might hear my kids in the background. For that, I apologize. They're just having a good time.
No, you don't got to apologize for that, man. Let them play. Yes, Enoch is scripture, guys. And again, if anybody thinks that it's not scripture, I'd like to see you try to disprove it.
Luke, Luke chapter 7:22. And Yeshua answering said to them, go report to John what you have seen and heard. Blind receive sight, lame do walk, lepers are cleansed, deaf do hear, dead are raised. The good news is brought to the poor. And blessed is he who shall not stumble in me. Interesting. Why did he say that?
Yeah, and why is
Is
he
he not
called
the
the
worst?
stumbling stone? He's called a stumbling stone for a reason, a rock of offense.
A rock of offense, a stone for stumbling. It's all throughout the scripture. Is he not the word that's manifested in the flesh? So if you deny any single word that's written in this book, are you stumbling? You're stumbling on him. You're not stumbling on what you're reading in Genesis. You're literally stumbling on him because he is the word.
Mm-hmm.
People don't understand that.
Very, very sad. All right. Well, let's just do what we did last. I don't know when the last time we did a live was. It was a long while ago, but let's
It's been a while.
let's just go off of scripture by scripture. We'll just walk
Sure. Where would you like to go first?
But it doesn't matter to me. I mean, it all fits together. I think we should go back to what you were covering in Genesis. I think it was Genesis. Is it Genesis 10? I can't remember.
Genesis 10. Oh, the heathen with Japheth. What I was trying to bring up to that gentleman, Redbeard. That was on
Yeah,
my
and it
lap.
also tells us who the Gentile is as well. But yeah, all of that.
It's Japheth.
Yep.
It's Japheth. It's the whole line of Japheth. And then you read it on through the line of Ham, and it just says these are the children of Ham. Then it goes on to Shem.
Also, notice in Genesis 4, it gives off Cain's lineage, right? It just tells you about the first couple children that are born of Cain. But then when you get to Adam's lineage, not only does it tell you who begat who, but it also tells you how many years they lived, when they died. It's much more descriptive. And nowhere do you find Cain in Genesis chapter 5 because he's not Adam's son. And these people that harp on Genesis 4:1, they don't know that there's actually scripture out there that disproves that, and they don't have any other witnesses to that scripture, just the one of what Eve says, nothing more.
All right. I really wanted to go over to Kings real quick too, if that's okay.
Yeah, let's go.
1 Kings 11.
Okay.
Verse 1. But King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, the Ammonites, the Edomites, the Zidonians, and the Hittites, which are descendants of Canaanites, of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, you shall not go into them. Guys, hold on one second.
Neither shall they come in unto you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. And Solomon clave unto these in love. Now, what people don't realize is Paul had the same problem. The thorn that was in Paul's side was that he had a lust for women of other ethnicities. It's all through scripture.
Yep. And it goes on to say, and he had 700 wives, princesses, and there are 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. What happened when Truth Seeker came on and said, oh, my husband has something to say? And what did he say? Anybody that saw the video? He just threw a bunch of opinions. There's nowhere in scripture where it says we can't make seed, blah, 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 blah. And his word exerted over everything. So ask me this question, people who have ears and eyes to see. Did he not just turn away her heart from actually seeing what the truth says? What it says right here? I'd say he did. That's why you're not supposed to marry into those nations, because of that specific reason. Or it came to, I'm sorry.
Flesh. This is about flesh and lust.
Mm-hmm. For it came to pass when Solomon was old and his wives turned away his heart from after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father. For Solomon went after Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Zidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. And Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord, and went not fully after the Lord, as did David his father. I wonder how. Well, it tells us right here in verse 2. He mixed in with a bunch of nations he shouldn't have mixed in with. Exactly the same nations we've been trying to warn people to stay away from. Why is it such a problem that we're pointing out that all throughout Scripture, these nations here are listed that stay away from, do not intermarry with them, do not give your sons to their daughters, nor your daughters to their sons, but they can't accept that. You know what her excuse was? Well, he had a heart circumcision. It doesn't matter if you had a heart circumcision or not. Scripture makes it clear. Babylon of old, Babylon of new. When all the Babylons got destroyed, what happened? Everybody got scattered to the four corners of the earth and went to their own land, own people. Why? Because Yahweh made kind after kind after kind. Let me ask you guys something. Do you guys see red birds mating with bluebirds? I've never seen it. Have you ever seen an ostrich straddle a duck? I've never seen it. So why is it that every animal on this earth can seem to get that hint that deers don't try to mate with lions and lions don't try to mate with bears, but yet we don't seem to get the hint? Why?
I
Who
mean,
runs this earth again?
what happens when men take animals that aren't supposed to crossbreed and make them crossbreed? Like the lion and the tiger. They turn into a liger and they never stop growing until they die. Isn't that interesting? So I'm going to go over.
Kind after kind after kind, guys. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
You're good, man. You're good. There's a little bit of a delay. So
I got to use the bathroom.
Okay, I'm going to go to Matthew 7:6, and this is what I was quoting earlier. It says, "Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn again to rend you." So we're going to go to Psalms 22. And this is where the Messiah, the spirit of prophecy, is crying out, okay? And listen to what he has to say. I'm going to start in verse 10, and he says, "I was cast upon thee from the womb. Thou art my Elohim. From my mother's belly. Be not far from me, for trouble is near, for there is none to help. Many bulls have compassed me. Strong bulls of Bashan have beset me round about. They gaped upon me with their mouths as a ravening and roaring lion. I am poured out like water, and my bones are out of joint. My heart is like wax. It is melted in the midst of my bowels. My strength is dried up like a potsherd, and my tongue cleaveth to my jaws, and thou hast brought me to the dust of death, which is the serpent's food. So again, if we stop, it talks about the dogs in this chapter. It talks about strong bulls of Bashan who have the mouths of lions, right? And this is what's described in Revelation chapter 9 and Joel chapter 2, the locust army. So do we have to guess about who the dogs are, especially after what we just read, who the bulls of Bashan are, who all of these fallen lines are? And when we go into prophecy, do we not read what the sword is going to do to all of these different nations that come against Israel? Israel can't be all the nations of the earth. That would mean that the covenant's been made with all of the people that Yahweh said very clearly through the prophets he was going to make a complete end of. So how does that work? And I'm not talking about every line, because understand this, that within the 12 tribes, there are tribes that were within those tribes that branched off into smaller groups until we have just become known as races, basically. Okay, but people oftentimes say, well, I'm of Indian descent, or I'm of Mexican descent, and this and that. And they get all worried thinking that we're saying that they don't have salvation. That's not what we're saying. We're talking about a specific line which branches off like all lines do. There were 12 tribes of Israel for a reason, but within those 12 tribes, they branched off into subsections, the smaller tribes, but they were all the ones that were obedient, the remnant that were saved each time, were those who did not mix their blood. And it's no different today. That's who Yeshua is returning for, a remnant who has been kept and preserved, holy in their bloodline, just as in the beginning of the book. That's what the end of the book is about. Same thing. Yeah,
That's right.
John 3:16 is such a joke.
I mean, the scripture itself is not a joke. It's how they understand it is such a joke.
Yeah, that's
The
what I
scripture
mean.
makes it. Yeah, I know what you mean. I just wanted to,
Yeah.
yeah, I just wanted to help you out there. It's just the way they twist it because scripture makes it clear all throughout the prophets who he's coming to gather. Okay. Um, I've never seen a prophecy where he said, okay, I'm going to allow the line of Ham in here now. Have you?
No,
I
not
haven't
once.
seen it. I'd like to somebody point out that prophecy to me since everybody's so sure of it that they can be a part of Israel's congregation and give wise. Let me ask you something. What happened to Shechem? If you really want to go there.
Yeah, like we can go read we can go read what happened to Shechem. And again, remember what Shechem did to Dinah, who was only 12 years old, and he also had his eyes on other young women in the tribe of Israel as well.
Yeah.
And that's also explained in the 12 patriarchs how the angel came and told those two brothers to go in and slay Shechem and all of his men. And we could go through all of these, but I think people know for the most part. I don't mind reading them. If you want to go to those different places, we can. We can go to Shechem. We can go to Moses. There's plenty of examples. Scripture makes it clear that you are to love your neighbor, but not everyone is your neighbor.
Was 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 Moses charged for slaying the Egyptian?
Nope.
No. Was the children charged for destroying Shechem? Deceitfully, I might add.
No, and the only reason that it says in Genesis that Jacob was displeased with them was because they used the circumcision in order to deceive them. That's why it sounds like Jacob is mad in Genesis 49, but he's not mad, he's just disappointed that they were circumcised and then slain.
And then they were in a land that wasn't theirs, and he was also worried about that too, that they might be overrun. So he had a lot to worry about, but Yahweh protected them the whole time, and Yahweh didn't curse them for doing what they did to Shechem deceitfully, because it was deceitfully. But it was not deceitful, it was strategic, is what it was. And it'll be strategic again. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, and that we keep saying this, it's getting kind of old of saying it, but it's true that there is nothing new under the sun. What was before will be again. And the same way the first Exodus took place, there's going to be a second Exodus. And there's a reason why it says that every man shall return to his own land, right? We're going to return back to the land, and then we're going to have a big, huge battle. And people skip over this. They think that they're going to get raptured out of here. Why do you think all of these doctrines were created? It's so that you don't have to deal with the fact that you're thinking you're going to get pulled up into the sky. Meanwhile, scripture says that you're going to be here on the earth. And if you're not part of that remnant, well, guess what? You're going to have to deal directly with the nations that are going to come in and take you away either into captivity or they're going to slay you right before your family's faces. And that's exactly what the prophets tell us are going to happen. Now, we're talking about mixing races.
The only thing that's going to meet
Mixing ethnicities. It's not allowed. It wasn't even legal in America until 100 years ago or 125 years ago. It was illegal to even consider. And again, people don't consider. Why has there been segregation in America? Why is there an apartheid in Africa? Why has there always been enmity between the white man and the black man? Think about that for a reason and be honest with yourself while you're thinking about it. Be honest with yourself and ask yourself what happened in Genesis chapter 3. And is Eve the mother of all living, as scripture says? And is Cain Adam's son, yes or no? If you can't prove it with scripture, then we have a huge problem.
The only people that are getting pulled up in the air are the ashes that are pulled out of the furnace that are sprinkled up into the heavens.
Yeah, the 140, that's the 144 is the closest thing that you're going to see to a rapture, but it's not going to be the rapture that people think. The same way that Enoch and Elijah were taken up is the same exact way the 144. They're going to go with their clothes and everything, people.
And then they're going to go with the Messiah, and then Messiah and them are going to judge every single person who is sinning on this earth.
Which is, again, let me pull that scripture up really quickly.
Sure, and I'll pull up one too while you're at it.
Now, a lot of people skip over this in the book of Luke. This is what the Messiah was saying, guys. Listen very closely. This did not happen in the Messiah's day. And what Michael just said, when the 144 come back to rule and reign and judge the first death, they're going to judge your flesh, okay? When they come back with the Messiah, they are the iron scepter. They are the sickle. They are the rod of iron, whatever you want to call it. They're the threshing instrument, okay? So listen to what Yeshua says in Luke 19:27. He says, "But those mine enemies, which would not have that I should reign over them, bring hither and slay them before my feet." How many people caught that in the New Testament that haven't heard us speak before? Did you know that the Messiah said this? Bring those who would not let them reign over me before me and slay them before my feet? Who do you think he's talking about? 144.
Mm-hmm. He mentions that. Let me tell you guys a little secret. The book of Luke is a very, very powerful book for those who have true ears to hear. Matthew's more like a book for everybody, but the book of Luke,
Mm-hmm.
y'all need to be paying attention, very close attention to what he's saying in that book, because yeah, he's talking to people, and even the apostles asked him. He said, "Master, Master, who are you speaking to, us or somebody else?" And he didn't even answer them. You know why? Because he wasn't speaking to them.
Yep. Luke's got a ton of nuggets in it, but it's really for people that understand quite a bit. Each one of them are a little bit different, I would say. They all have similar accounts, but there's more, and I would have to agree. And Luke's pretty deep.
Luke is really deep. So is John too, but Luke is deep, deep. Where was I going to go with this? Let's see here. Got cut off track. I really wish I could just read Jeremiah 48, 49,
Read it.
and
Read whatever you want to read, brother. That's why
I mean,
we're
it's long reads.
well. We can switch it up. We can read just either sections of it or whatever, however you want to do it, man. But let's cover it.
All right. Everybody says that Ruth was a Moabite, and we're allowed to mix with Moabites, even though the law clearly states that a Moabite shall never join the congregation. The book of Numbers makes it very clear that a star would rain out of Jacob and strike all the corners of Moab. Does it not say that? It says that. So, Jeremiah 48, concerning Moab, this is what Yahweh of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, said: Woe to Nebo, for it is ravished. Corinthia is put to shame, captured. The high stronghold is put to shame and broken down. There is praise for Moab no longer. In Heshbon, they have devised evil against her. Who against who? Who's the her? It's Israel. It's always mentioned as Israel, her. Come and let us cut it off as a nation. Oh, madmen. Remember Psalms 83? Did it not say that Moab would be one of the enemies in the last days to
A
join up in a
madman.
covenant with the world and say, let us cut her off as a nation so that they are no more on the earth? Very much so. Sorry. Let us cut it off as a nation, O madmen. You are also cut off. A sword goes after you. Listen, an outcry from Horonim, ravishing and great destruction. Moab shall be destroyed. Her little ones shall cry out, for on the ascent of Luhith they go up weeping bitterly, for in the descent of Horonim the enemies shall hear a cry of destruction. Flee, deliver your own lives, and be like a bush in the wilderness. For because you have trusted in your works and in your treasures, you shall be captured, and Chemos shall go forth into exile, his priests and his heads together. And a ravisher shall come into every city, no one escapes. Does everybody know who this ravisher is? The scripture defines it. It's the 144 in the Messiah.
Yeah, if you wanna, if you want me, I can cover the 140. I can cover some of the sections of the 144 while we go through this.
Yeah, if you want to, go ahead. I'll pause
But
here.
whenever you feel like you're at a stopping point, we can start covering different sections here and there.
Okay. And the valley shall perish, and the plain be destroyed, as Yahweh has spoken. Give wings to Moab, for she has to flee away, and her cities become a ruin, with no one to dwell in them. Cursed is he who is slack in doing the work of Yahweh, and cursed is he who withholds his sword from blood. Who is that talking to? I wonder. Verse 10 in Jeremiah 48. Any ideas? I'm not talking to you, Adrian. I'm just talking to the chat.
I'm waiting to see if anybody's going to answer.
This word is alive and living, guys.
Yeah, I'm not an understatement, but that's very true.
That's right. It's for whoever has ears to hear what it's saying. Cursed is he who is slack in doing the work of Yahweh, and cursed is he who withholds his sword from blood. Moab has been at ease from his youth, and he has settled on his dregs, and has not been emptied from vessel to vessel, nor has he gone into exile. Therefore his flavor has stayed in him, and his fragrance is unchanged. Therefore, see, the days are coming, declares Yahweh, when I shall send him tilters, who shall tilt him over and empty his vessels and break the bottles. That means they're all going to be destroyed. Who is he sending? I wonder. And Moab shall be ashamed because of Chemosh, as the house of Israel was ashamed at Bethel, their refuge. How do you say we are mighty and strong men for battle? Moab is ravished, and her cities have been entered, and her chosen young men have gone down to the slaughter, declares the sovereign, whose name is Yahweh of hosts. The calamity of Moab is near to come. Has it happened yet? No, because it's still there. If anybody would actually study the genealogies, it's very still there, alive and well today. And the things that they are doing are pretty darn disgusting. How they've gotten away with it for so long, I don't know. But you know what? Their day's coming, as it's written.
Because the media is owned and bought and paid for, and they only show people what people need to see or what they want them to see.
That's right. The calamity of Moab is near to come, and his affliction hurries fast. Lament for him, all you who are around him, and all you who know his name. Say how the strong scepter has been broken, the staff of splendor. Come down from your esteem and sit in thirst, O inhabitant, daughter of Dibon. For the ravisher of Moab shall come against you. He shall destroy your strongholds. Stand by the way and watch, O inhabitants, Aurora. Ask him who flees and her who escapes, say, what has been done? Moab has been put to shame, for it has been broken down. Howl and cry. Let it be heard in Arnon that Moab is ravished, and judgment has come on the plain of the country of Holon, and on Yahtash, and on Mopethath, that's a tough word to say, and on Dibon, and Nebo, and Beth Diblathim. Sorry, I can't pronounce some of these names. They're just too hard.
Yeah, they're tongue twisters.
They're tongue twisters, yeah. And on these are all descendants of Moab, by the way, guys. All the countries surrounding it. If you know where Moab is, study this. And Kiroth and of Botzra, and on the cities of the land of Moab, far or near, the horn of Moab has been cut off, and his arm has been broken, declares Yahweh. pretty straightforward what's coming from Moab.
Yeah. Let me read something in Jeremiah 16:16 through 17. We're going to talk about how Moab's going to get all chopped up like that. It says, Behold, I will send many fishers, saith Yahweh, and they shall fish for them. And I will send for many hunters, and they shall hunt from every mountain and from every hill, and out of the holes of the rocks. Remember in Revelation, they're going to be hiding in the dens of the rocks, saying, Fall on us. For mine eyes are upon all of their ways, and they are not hid from my face, neither is their iniquity hid from my eyes. So in Jeremiah 16, who are the fishers that Yahweh is going to send? And who are these hunters that are going to come and hunt for them from every mountain and every hill and out of the holes of the rocks? The iron scepter, the 144,000.
That's right. Somebody asked who is Moab. Well, who was Lot? Lot was a descendant of Abraham's family. They all came from the line of Laban. Who is Laban? Who did Lot's descendants mingle with? It was Canaan. And who's Canaan? That's how you figure this stuff out, guys.
Along
Start
with Ruth.
connecting dots.
When people say Ruth was a Moabite, again, you guys have to remember, after Lot escaped, his daughters got him drunk, and then they had 2 children. Those children, the women, belonged to Yahweh. Why? Because those women that hadn't mixed, they were still part of the congregation. Once Moab and Ammon started mixing, then that's when you start seeing the descendants of Lot. That's when they become a mixed bloodline, like I showed you with Jacob, from Abraham, Isaac to Jacob, Jacob and Esau. All of this mixing has always been happening. It's nothing new, and it's not new now. It's the same exact thing.
I wanted to pull up Ruth and show you guys something in Ruth. But first, I want to address something that, well, I just want to say something out loud. I've been studying the genealogies on and off for about 3 years. I've been also studying DNA and mixing seed. What happens when this person mixes with this person and that person mixes with that? I just wanted to know so I could help better pinpoint who's who in the world today. So, Canaan is, like I said in my video earlier, is the hardest descendant to find in the world today. And that's not on accident. Why? Because they are the only seed that's been cursed on this earth today to never prosper. I always knew in my heart who they were, but it took me 3 years before I actually pinpointed their location to where they were. And I would get to studying, y'all. That's all I'm going to say.
Lot's 2 daughters that got pregnant by Lot and gave birth. Remember their names? What was the name of the 2 children that were born from Lot's 2 daughters? Moab and Ammon.
Can I pull up a map?
Yeah. We can pull up plenty.
Where the modern day Ammon is not the original location of Ammon. I'm telling you right now. I'm about to blow your minds with that. But first, before we go there, Adrian, can you go over to Deuteronomy 23 when I cover this in Ruth and pull up the Moabite?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Cover that real quick before I pull it up, and then while you're reading that, I'm gonna try to pull up this map.
It says, "He that is wounded in the stones or hath his privy member cut off shall not enter the congregation of Yahweh. A bastard shall not enter the congregation of Yahweh." Now, a bastard, you guys need to look this up. It is someone of Israel and someone that is not of Israel. Okay? When they mix seed, that's what this word in Scripture means. A bastard shall not enter the congregation of Yahweh, even to his 10th generation shall he not enter to the congregation of Yahweh. An Ammonite or a Moabite shall not enter the congregation of Yahweh, even to their 10th generation they shall not enter to the congregation of Yahweh forever, because They met you not with bread and with water in the way, when you came forth out of Egypt. And because they hired against thee Balaam, the son of Beor, of Petor, of Mesopotamia, to curse thee. Let me go further than
Right.
that.
No. That's perfect. So let me ask the chat: is Moab Yahweh's people? Yes or no? Can they join the congregation? I'd say no. Yeah, no, they're not. So let me go over to Ruth chapter 1, verse 6. Chapter 1, verse 6. And she rose up with her daughters-in-law and returned from the fields of Moab, for she had heard in the fields of Moab that Yahweh had visited his people in giving them bread. So let me ask you guys something. Was his people in Moab or was his people Moab? What did that just say? That is not That is not his people. Israel was dwelling in the land of Moab. It's the same concept. If I, as an American Caucasian man, went over to France, would Frenchmen treat me as a Frenchman or would they treat me as an American? Even though we share the same skin and everything.
One more thing before you move on, Michael. I want to read one thing out of Matthew chapter 1, verse 5. And Solomon begat Boaz of Rahab, and Boaz begat Obab of Ruth, and Obab begat Jesse. We have a problem here in Matthew chapter 1, verse 5. What tribe was Solomon from? If we're reading in Matthew 1, verse 5, and Solomon begot Boaz of Rahab, and Boaz begat Obad of Ruth, and Obab begat Jesse, what tribe was Solomon from again? Who is Solomon? How is he related to David? And who is David from? Do you think Yahweh would allow Ruth, if she was a Moabite, to be in this lineage in Matthew chapter 1? People have to think. You have to read your scripture. Sorry, Michael, go ahead.
No. I was going to say, go ahead. I'm trying to find this one map here on where Ammon's true location is compared to where they say it is.
I've got about 500 of them. I don't know which one to pull from.
I tried saving them to my PC, and every time I try to reload them up on my PC just locks up. So I literally have to go back, find the right map. It's actually easier for me to do it on my phone because my computer just lags.
All right.
Because my internet's kind of crappy.
While you're reading that, I'm going to read out of Titus about the genealogies, because I want people to understand what Paul was saying when people say that, oh, you shouldn't argue about genealogies. Well, let me ask you a question. We have nearly 6,000 years of genealogies. If genealogies are not important, why would Yahweh have put them in the book? So let's read what actually is being said here. It says, this is a faith, where I'm in Titus 3, verse 8 through 11. It says, this is a faithful saying, and these things I will affirm constantly. They which have believed in Yahweh might be careful to maintain good works. These things are good and profitable unto men. But avoid foolish questions, number one. Avoid genealogies and contentions and strivings about the law, for they are unprofitable and vain. A man that is a heretic, after the first and second admonition, reject, knowing that he is such, is subverted, and sinneth, being condemned of himself. Now, if this, what we're teaching right here, if this is not true, and we've given you prophecy after prophecy after prophecy, and everything that Yahweh said. If this is untrue, why is it calling the person that is contentious against the genealogies and strivings about the law? If you tell somebody, hey, you shouldn't mix your seed, and they attack you, what does it call them? A heretic. So we have to understand what Paul is saying. It's not that we're not allowed to study the genealogies or understand them. It's just telling you not to continue to argue with people about them because it's not going to get anywhere.
Trying to get this to focus.
Oh, I think I might be able to pull that one up. Well, I think I have I don't know if mine's older or.
See, right here is Ammon for you guys.
Let me pull that up. I don't know if I can make
right there. There's Ammon. Ammon's right here in Africa, where they tell you Ammon's over here. When was this map? This is a real map. You can find this in Harvard University. It's in
zoom back in, Michael.
Lutterman. It's in Lutterman, and many different places you can find this. This map was from 1662.
I'm trying to see where mine aligns with yours. I'm going to also show something as well.
But today, even on today's maps, it won't show you that there.
I got Armana. I'm trying to look for Ammon. Hold on a second.
It's directly west of Egypt.
Yeah, it's hard to see on all of the. There's, you know how they are. There's so many different ones. They're all slightly different locations. Some of them say Ammon and some of them do not. Like this one that I have up in front of me does not. It says Armad.
Hold on a second.
Let me try to pull up a different one here. Yeah, this one might, if I can zoom, this one might work. Microscope, there we go. All right. You're on mute, Michael.
No, I know. I just had to get on to my children to stop arguing.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you were trying to explain what you were looking at.
No, I was trying to get it to work. That's the problem with the internet out here. It's so slow. Like everything wants to lag.
I was looking to also show people Tira land.
You better not. You better not. Sorry.
You guys, hopefully you guys
I wish I could have just saved all the.
A lot of these maps, they've got the mermaids, they've got all kinds of stuff on them. Niger. Armana. I can't find the one that you're on. I have it, I just don't know where it is.
Yeah, we went through this stuff for hours upon hours upon hours upon hours of just pulling up biblical locations like Mara or Amara, where the Israelites went to drink from the waters that were bitter.
I got it right here.
You got it?
Amara, yeah. All right, so right here is Armara. Remember, guys, this is the equator. Okay. There's Niger. Let me back out a little bit here. Now, I want you guys to see something because right here in this area is super important to understand. But more importantly, there's a branch of 4 riverheads that go down into this body of water, which I shared privately on one of the live teachings that we did. But if you guys go through these, you'll understand a whole lot better. Like Michael was saying, When they left Egypt and they crossed over, they would have you believe that they crossed over and went up. But remember, Moab cut them off right here. And then they went back down and they crossed back over. Look at this right here, Nubia, okay? And that says Nibia, but I can show you other ones. These mountain ranges right here, guys, are what's going to be holding back the fallen. When we arrive to the promised land, if I can back out of here, when we get to this area, we have to travel all the way up past the equator, okay? And then once we get up past the equator, we're going to the mountains of Nubia. And right here is where blood's going to be filled up to the horse's bridle, guys. So there's been a lot of flip-flopping, a lot of people saying things that are not true about where Israel traveled, why they traveled those locations. Again, here's an even older map. This is Africa, right? Now, when you look at these maps, they have different types of creatures on them, which is what Jasher talks about. And again, this is that same area. If I can get my phone, where is it? If I can get my phone in here, this is around Jerusalem and Jerusalem area. David's city was down in here. These channels that lead down into this same body of water that I was talking about earlier. Nimrod and his land were over here. This was part of Terah land. Terah land is also down here. Terah and Abraham were traveling back and forth in this general vicinity, but the Tower of Nimrod was over here. This was Shinar, the land of Terah, which is what's explained in Jasher and in the 66 book canon. So it's really just a matter of you guys being able to see that when they were traveling, what direction were they traveling, and understanding we have Ezekiel 48, we have Revelation, we've got all of these different places in Scripture where it tells us exactly how big the portions of land will be that are going to be given back to the 12 tribes, and only in a place. We know that Africa is 72 million square miles. Okay, when you go look at the land masses in Ezekiel 48, see if you can fit them in that place that they call Israel. That's the size of like New Jersey, if that. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And the promised land is a physical land that we're going back to. It's not a spiritual land. And people are so wrapped up in getting raptured out of here, they think they're going to heaven when Scripture says, Revelation 21 says, Yahweh brings heaven down to the new earth after the 1,000-year millennial reign. The only flesh, the only man that's in heaven is Yeshua. That's it. Everyone else is in a holding chamber, or a holding place, I should say. Until when Yeshua came, remember that in Genesis chapter 2, it tells you about those 4 rivers that came out of the land of the Garden of Eden. And one of those is where? Ethiopia. So if one of those is in Ethiopia and it's circling the Garden of Eden, right? And those 4 riverheads come out of that land, they flow down from Egypt all the way down nearly to South Africa. Well, in South Africa for sure. But my point being is, we have to understand that there's a lot of different passages we could go through, even in Jasher, where they dug up and changed and covered. They were moving waterways to try to feed natural fresh water back to one of the queens who was married to one of the kings of Africa, because the water mass was different. Their magi's were weighing the water, and they found out that the water was lighter and cleaner, and they were making and digging canals in the book of Jasher. Yes, south of the rivers of Cush, exactly. So if it's south of the rivers of Cush, where is Cush? Cush is in Africa.
It's in Ethiopia. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's right there, guys. It tells you exactly where the gathering of the elect will take place. Precisely. It gives you a precise location.
Sure does.
Not just once, but 100 times. It always tells you the south, the south, the south, beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, the south, the south, the south. Woe to the land whirring with wings that are beyond the rivers of Ethiopia.
And remember the prophecy in Ezekiel of the 144, or not the 144, but the our brothers and sisters that are in Africa, South Africa right now, that woke us up. That prophecy in Ezekiel that a fire would be kindled over there and that they would wake up and wake up the rest of the world. If people don't believe that's happening right now, you're not paying attention. That's all I can say.
Yes, we've all been trying to figure this out, but we know for sure they did not go up north.
Mm-mm.
Something we don't know everything, guys. We're all trying to figure out. You got to understand. I work 8 hours plus. I come home. I got to feed the kids, do all this other stuff, do homework and
Well, I know somebody who
laundry, and
knows. I know somebody who knows exactly where everything is located, but
yeah,
that's neither here nor there. The reason why some people know way more is because of the prophecy that I was just explaining in Ezekiel, where Ezekiel is told to drop his face towards the south and prophesy and wake those people up. They woke up way before any of us did. And every one of them over there in South Africa that I've spoken to have way more knowledge than anyone else that I've spoken to around the world because of these apps that we talk.
I got something for you. I got something for you. Over in Isaiah, let's see. Because those people over there, they just like Adrian said, they've been awake for a long, long time, and they're watching. They're watching the world right now, every single continent, because they know that the gathering is going to take place there. And I wanted to pull up this prophecy for you. Where is it? Isaiah 26. In that day, this song is sung in the land of Judah. We have a strong city. He sets up deliverance walls and ramparts. Open the gates and let the righteous nation which guards the truth enter in. Who is he talking to? And who is allowed to go in? But you don't have to. You can stay here in Babylon, right here in Egypt. And guess what? What's going to happen in Egypt? You're going to die. It's going to be given over to all the nations that just flooded this country. So you can stay here all day. Go ahead. You can have this country. Bye. Trust me. They don't want you there. They don't want you there if you ain't going to keep the truth of this word. Yeshua ain't either.
Well, it's prophesied what will happen if they try to go there without acceptance. Let me read this out of Ezekiel. Ezekiel 20. This is why we have brothers and sisters that are awake. Ezekiel 20, chapter 40, or chapter 20, verses 45 through 49. It says, Moreover, the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, set thy face towards the south, and drop thy word towards the south, and prophesy against the forest of the south field, and say to the forest of the south, Hear the word of Yahweh. Thus saith Yahweh, Behold, I will kindle a fire in thee, and it shall devour every green tree in thee, and every dry tree. The flaming flame shall not be quenched, and all faces from the south to the north shall be burned therein. And all flesh that see that I, Yahweh, have kindled it, it shall not be quenched. Then said I, O Yahweh, they say of me, doeth he not speak in parables? Go read this and figure out what it's talking about. It's clearly stated that it's a parable, but this is why. And again, this same fire will be kindled in the heart of the remnant when they witness their brothers falling to protect them. Those are the souls in Revelation 6 crying out under the altar. How long must we wait until your brothers and sisters that are like you have died? The difference between the remnant and the rest that are going to have to lay down their life The remnant die in the twinkling of an eye. As quick as you can blink, you change from this earthly body into your new body. Why? Because the people that are in the south land are preparing to receive you and lay their lives down for you. That's the prophecy. And then people will talk about brothers that are over there that I love dearly, that I know could easily disprove anybody on here. I've watched it time and time again, and they stay silent, like Michael said. They just watch and they listen, and they want to see who's going to teach the truth and who's going to lie. Because as soon
if
as you
you're
try to
not
step
teaching the
foot on that
truth,
land and they're there, you're going to lose your life.
yep, they're not going to let you come in. They know who they are over there. They know exactly who they are over there. They're waking up. They've been awake for a long time. They've been preparing for a long time. The message has been spread to the four corners of the earth. You know how many history teachers will tell you straight out, oh, Africa's where man was created. Because they know. They studied it out. They've been saying it, but nobody's been listening to it because they get discredited. They get shut down because it goes against the world narrative.
Yeah, it's racist.
It's racist, yeah.
Is it racist when an entire country full of Canaanite force all of Israel down into the very bottom portion of Africa? And why do they do that? Because only Israel's land is prosperous, and only those farmers in that land are going to prosper because of the blessing that was bestowed upon Abraham and his descendants, which is why the rest of the country is falling in shambles. So let that sink in as well for all the naysayers.
I'm gonna pull something up. You guys want to stay here? Let me show you what's going to happen here. If you don't gather to where the 144, the remnant, and the Messiah are going to be, you ain't going to like the results of it.
I'm going to read about the iron scepter really quickly while you're pulling that up in 2 Samuel. 2 Samuel 7:11 through 17. And as since the time that I commanded judges to be over my people Israel, and have caused thee to rest from all thine enemies, also Yahweh telleth thee that he will make thee a house. And when the days be fulfilled, that thou shouldst sleep with thy fathers, I will set up a seed after thee, which shall produce out of thy bowels, and I will establish his kingdom. He shall build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. And I will be his father, and he shall be my son. If he commit iniquity, I will chasten him with the rod of men and with the stripes of the children of men. And then, well, I'll just leave that one there. I'll let you guys mull over that one for a second.
I'm about to pull up something here in a second. I'm just putting it together real quick.
Psalms 2:8 through 9. Ask me, and I shall give thee of the heathen for thine inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth is thy possession. Thou shalt break them with a rod of iron, and thou shalt dash them into pieces like a potter's vessel. Who's the rod of iron? The 144. The rod of men. That's what we just read in 2 Samuel 7:11 through 17. And in Revelation 20, what does John see? I saw thrones, and judgment was given unto them.
I'm almost done. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to pull.
You're good, man.
I'm about to show you where I want you to go in just a second. I'm just trying to pull this up quickly as I possibly can.
You're good, man. No worries. I just want people to understand the importance of when there's people that are full of knowledge, and I'm not talking about me or Michael, but when there's brothers that are speaking, there are certain times where I just get quiet and listen, and I'm just astounded at the knowledge and the revelation that's been given. And the people that deny that, and they get so angry and upset, even today, like just watching people coming against Michael and all of that stuff, it gets old after a while, because after all of my life of always being a giver and always trying my best to help other people out and always knowing that Yahweh had a calling on my life, and I never knew what it was. I've never been happy until now, until these last, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years, however long it's been that I've been slowly being drawn into truth and slowly being taught things that other people just don't seem to want to take the time to study. And then when they come against me, it reaffirms what Scripture says. They hated the Messiah for the same word. They're going to hate all of us as well.
Can you go over to Genesis 48, verse 5, brother?
Yeah. Reads, "And now thy two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, which were born unto thee in the land of Egypt, before I came unto thee in Egypt, are mine, as Reuben and Simeon. They shall be mine."
That's right. Manasseh and Ephraim were born in Egypt, right? Now, let me show you something here. Show you guys something here. Let me turn on my camera. What is that right there? And what is that right here? You've got
And
the
note,
eagle.
that's not an
Yeah.
eagle. It's a phoenix. Look behind its head. But I get what you're saying. It is Egypt.
Yeah. And the Jewish star right above it, and the spears, and the I accidentally clicked on something, and the wheat.
The olive branch and the spears.
Mm-hmm. Then we go over here. Oh, I don't know what I did here. Hold on. Sorry. Egypt. This is modern day Egypt, brothers and sisters, whether you want to admit that or not, that
And
we're
there's
in.
owls on every point of those ones. There's little owls.
So
People
to
don't
you
get it.
guys, that's, huh?
People don't get that the spirit of Africa is, or the spirit of Egypt or Babylon is here. It's been here.
It's been here for a long time. That's why we have taxes. You read the book of Jasher, what happened in Egypt? Where was taxes? Um, where was taxes thought of? It was thought of in Egypt. It's where it came from. Now let me show you guys something in prophecy on what Messiah is going to do. Once I turn this off, when I can, there we go. In Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 2, and the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, speak to the elders of Israel, and say to them, Thus said the Master Yahweh, Have you come to inquire of me? As I live, I am not being inquired of by you, declares the Master Yahweh. Judge them, Son of man, judge them. Make known to them the abomination of their fathers. Who's he talking to? Is he talking to Ezekiel? Who's coming back with judgment? It's our Messiah. It's a prophecy of the Father telling the Messiah to judge us for all of our abominations. And you shall say to them, Thus said the Master Yahweh, on the day when I choose Israel, when I choose Ham, or Canaan, or Moab, or Lot, or Ammon. No, it says that on the day when I choose Israel and lifted my hand, who is the hand? Who sits at the right hand of the Father? It's the Messiah. And an oath to the seed of the house of Jacob, and made myself known to them in the land of Egypt. I lifted my hand in the oath to them, saying, I am Yahweh your Elohim. On that day I lifted my hand in the oath to them to bring them out of the land of Egypt into a land that I have searched out for them, flowing with milk and honey, the splendor of all lands. And I said to them, each one of you throw away the abominations which are before his eyes, and do not defile yourselves with the idols of Egypt. I am Yahweh your Elohim. But they rebelled against me and would not obey me. All of them did not throw away the abomination. If you guys are thinking about this is talking about then, it's not. You're sorely mistaken if you're thinking this is talking about then. This is a future prophecy. Which are before their eyes, nor did they forsake the idols of Egypt. So I resolved to pour out my wrath. The wrath, there it is. on them to complete my displeasure against them in the midst of the land of Egypt. But I acted for my name's sake, that it should not be profaned before the eyes of the nations among whom they were, before whose eyes I made myself known to them, to bring them out of the land of Egypt. So I took them out of the land of Egypt, and I brought them into the wilderness. I gave them my laws and showed them my right rulings, which if a man does them, he shall live by them. I also gave them my Sabbaths to be a sign between me and them, to know that I am Yahweh who sets them apart. But the house of Israel rebelled against me in the wilderness. They did not walk in my laws. They rejected my right rulings, which if a man does, he shall live by them. And they greatly profaned my Sabbaths. Then I said I would pour out my wrath on them in the wilderness to consume them. But I acted for my name's sake, not to profane it before the nations before whose eyes I had brought them out. And I myself also lifted my hand as an oath to them in the wilderness, not to bring them into the land which I had given them, flowing with milk and honey, the splendor of all lands, because they rejected my right rulings and did not walk in my laws, and they profaned my Sabbaths, for their heart went after their idols, and my eye pardoned them from destroying them, and I did not make an end of them in the wilderness, for I said to their children in the wilderness, do not walk in the laws of your fathers, nor observe their rulings, nor defile yourselves with their idols. I am Yahweh your Elohim. Walk in my laws and guard my right rulings and do them, and set apart my Sabbaths, and they shall be a sign between me and you, to know that I am Yahweh your Elohim. But the children rebelled against me. They did not walk in my laws and my right rulings. They did not guard to do them, which if a man does, he shall live by them. They profaned my Sabbath, so I resolved to pour out my wrath on them to complete my displeasure against them in the wilderness. Now, I know this all sounds like this is all previous prophecy, but let me show you something to show you that it's not. It's right there in Isaiah 11:11. Because what happened before will happen again. There's nothing new under the sun. Isaiah 11:11. Therefore, thus said Yahweh, see, I am bringing evil on... No, I'm in Jeremiah 11:11. Sorry, my bad. Didn't go far enough.
I caught that as soon as you did. I was like, that's not the right spot.
What?
I caught that you were in Jeremiah at the same time that you did.
Oh, sorry. Isaiah 11:10. And in that day there shall be a root of Yesha standing as a banner to the people. Unto him the nation shall seek, and his rest shall be for esteemed. And it shall be in that day that Yahweh sets his hand again a second time to recover the remnant of his people who are left from Asher and from Egypt. Where's Egypt? A second time. When was the second time? Where's Asher? From Pathros, and from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea, and he shall raise a banner for the nations, to gather the outcasts of Israel, and assemble the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. Is that not what Matthew 24:29 through 31 says? He's going to send his angels to gather them from the four winds.
Revelation 7 as well.
Yep.
Here's another one for coming out of Babylon. Zechariah 2:6 through 9. It says, Ho, ho, come forth and flee from the land of the north, saith Yahweh. I have spread you abroad as the four winds of heaven, saith Yahweh. Deliver thyself, O Zion, that dwellest with the daughter of Babylon. For thus saith Yahweh of hosts, after the glory hath he sent me unto the nations which spoiled you. For he that toucheth you toucheth the apple of his eye. For behold, I will shake my hand upon them, and they shall be a spoil to their servants, and you shall know that Yahweh of hosts has sent me. Who's speaking? Your Messiah. He's the hand that's going to be shook along with the 144. And what Michael was saying is this: what he was just reading didn't happen in Egypt. It's happening now.
Right now.
I got more on men who are going to judge and rule and reign. Revelation 20. And I saw thrones, and they that sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yeshua and for the word, the Torah of Yahweh, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or upon their hands. And they lived and reigned with Yeshua for 1,000 years. Malachi 4:2 through 4. But unto you that fear my name shall the Son, the S-U-N, the light of the world, the Son of righteousness, arise with healing in his wings. And you shall go forth and grow up as calves of the stall. And you shall tread down the wicked, for they shall be ashes under the soles of your feet. In that day I shall do this, saith Yahweh of hosts. Remember ye the law of Moses my servant, which I commanded unto him in Horeb for all of Israel, with statutes and judgments. There's plenty more. I mean, I'm just trying to make the point that once Yeshua breaks open the firmament, or the firmaments, it's over. The mark is doing the complete opposite of what Yahweh's mark is. Yahweh's mark, according to Scripture, is what? Keeping the law, the statutes, and commandments, which are they're written up in ordinances, if I can put it that way. So the opposite of that, anybody who's not doing that already has the mark.
That's right. Also, Ezekiel 29, verse 19, where it says, Therefore, thus said the Master Yahweh, see, I am giving the land of Egypt to Nebuchadnezzar, the sovereign of Babel. And he shall take away her wealth, take away her spoil, and remove her pillage, and it shall be a reward for his army. I have given him the land of Egypt as a reward for his labor, because they worked for me, declares the Master Yahweh. That's something for you guys to remember. In that day I shall make the horn of Israel to spring forth. What horn? Who is the horn of Israel? While I open your mouth to speak in their midst, and they shall know that I am Yahweh.
Did you read out of Jeremiah 51 yet?
No.
I'm going to read something out. Jeremiah 51, 11 through 4, and this pertains to Babylon as well. It says, Make bright the arrows, gather the shields. Yahweh hath raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes for his device against Babylon to destroy it, because is the vengeance of Yahweh and the vengeance of his temple. Set up a standard upon the walls of Babylon and make the watch strong. Set up watchmen, prepare the ambushes, for Yahweh hath both devised and done that which he spake against the inhabitants of Babylon. O that thou dwellest upon many waters, abundant in treasures, thine end is come, and the measure of thy covetousness. Yahweh of hosts hath sworn by himself, saying, Surely I will fill thee with men as with caterpillars, and they shall lift up a shout against thee. Who are the caterpillars? Joel chapter 1, the locust army.
Oh, the locust army is spoken about all over Scripture, all the way from the beginning, all the way to the end. It compared the Midianites in the book of Judges in Judges chapter 6 as locusts, and they were in tribulation for 7 years. They hid in the holes and the dens of the rocks. And what did they do? They came in the number of locusts, and they consumed all the cattle of the field and the crops of the land. And the people of the east came with them, which are the Medes.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know who the Medes are, they're Iranian. They're Muslims.
That's why all of these These groups are coming together, just like as in Revelation chapter 6. The riders of those horsemen represent 4 distinct colors. The same colors of the same flags you are seeing being run through every European nation on this planet, people. It is time to wake up. Judgment is at our doorstep.
Yep, and those people are literally telling you who they are every day, walking down the street wearing purple, saying, "We're God's army. We're here to judge." And who are they saying they want to judge? Am I racist for telling? They want to unalive the white man off the face of the earth.
I see it every day on TikTok, and
Every day.
it stays up. It stays up. They don't get taken down.
Nope. And let me ask, who's funding them? Where are they getting the money to do this?
And when's the last time you've seen them come together like that? For anything. You don't see it in Africa. Why is it happening here? In such large groups. The first time you're seeing them, well, not the first time we're seeing them come together, because it's happened before, you're witnessing them coming together in massive groups, doing massive protests at football games and all kinds of places. The media is not showing you this, but it's there.
I refuse.
They'll be the last to come in and destroy everything. First, we got to deal with Ishmael's line.
Yep. Which is Muslim nations.
And that's
all the nations that just crossed our border literally is the nations that were prophesied to come. The Ishmaelites, the Medes, the Iranians, the Parathians, which is all of that line. Ammon and Moab, also a part of that line. You've got Libya, Lydia, Phut, Lud, and which are all the same. Libya and Lydia, Ethiopia, Canaan, which are all of the same line. Who else was it? Edom, Moab, Ammon, Amalek, all those nations. Assyria came across our line too.
They were telling us this. They're just named differently today, guys. Slightly. I mean, some are more obvious than others, like Palestine, for instance. Philistia is how you would read it in the Old Testament, but Palestine's come across. It's all happening. And the people that are so deceived in thinking that Israel is up in that land where they're literally flying the Star of Remphan right in front of your faces. You guys want to follow Big Brother Judah, but Big Brother Judah is scattered all over the earth.
And it tells you that all throughout prophecy, all the cities of Judah that are scattered to the four corners of the earth.
All 12 tribes. And then these people are the ones that we're supposed to follow that deny the return of the Messiah? How far do we have to go into Satan's trap before we realize and start thinking, hey, this might not be a good idea that we keep following people that say there is no Messiah? If you go over there and you try to preach about the Messiah, they'll knock your head clean off.
But yet, we got to praise them and worship them and fall down to them and go sacrifice red heifers and bow down before a wall and stand there and tie a box to my forehead and a box to my hand and bob before a wall.
No.
None of which is in Scripture.
None of it. Not even the third temple crap is in there.
Nope.
The new temple, New Jerusalem, is not built by man's hands, people, and it's made up of people. It is people. Revelation 21 is speaking about people. The walls of this city, all of that. The 12 apostles, the 12 prophets, the 24 elders, the 144,000, the pillars.
I was just about to say that in Revelation chapter 3. Those who overcome, I shall make pillars of the temple of my God, because they are part of the temple. The temple is not a place built, guys. It's a place that was spiritually built. It's the remnant in the 144.
Mm-hmm. The land's already there. And in the blinking of an eye, everything is going to be renewed, but not the way that people think, because it tells us in the prophets that the bodies and just the burning of the weapons is going to happen for 7 years. It's a long time.
We'll be burying bodies.
And the
for a
servants,
long time.
just so people are clear, the servants that are going to serve Israel are those of Israel that denied the Father. I hope people get that. BHI teaches it all different. They say that's going to be us. That's not what Scripture says. The servants are Israel. Those that deny, the Gentiles that denied Yahweh, they're going to be serving. And then
HI
again,
teaches that two different races came out of the same womb.
yeah, I just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever.
They'll sit there and say, "Oh, he was red and ruddy." Well, so was David. Oh, we don't want to look at that.
Yeah, and we can't go read Song of Solomon because they say, "Oh, that's a stretch. That's talking about beryl and ivory." And yeah, no kidding. It's prophetic speech.
Parables. As Deuteronomy 32, I make my people jealous with a foolish nation.
It's funny how people are waking up and starting to see it and being like, why are these people saying they're the chosen people and we're going to be their servants? Because Yahweh said it was going to happen. That's why. It's exactly why it's happening. And it is provoking us. It is getting us upset.
Provoking it. Yep, it is. As it was prophesied to happen. And eventually it's going to get us so upset they're going to wish they never did what they did. And all that talking smack of, oh, how white people put us into slavery. Oh, but they're going to go back into it, but it ain't going to be white people that put them there. It's going to be of their own line.
And I want you guys to remember all throughout Scripture, Israel was always good to other nations. They didn't go around preaching hatred. And only when Yahweh was trying to destroy the remnant of the original Nephil, the Nephilim, when he was having them wiped out, again, people think about Noah's flood and all of that, and they're not fully understanding what was happening, what that flood was. And that goes for the rest of Scripture as well. Michael and I tried sharing some stuff a while back just in one chapter alone, and we both realized, like, not everyone's where they need to be just yet. And that was a while ago, and I think people have come a long way since then. But I can tell you from what I've witnessed, and again, this has just been within the last, I don't know, maybe 6 months. We went from having issues speeding up, the time speeding up and all of that, and then the world getting crazier, but it's almost on a daily occurrence. We're seeing stuff that's happening now, and it's just happening faster and faster. And Matthew 24, the Messiah prophesied that Yahweh would speed up the time for the elect's sake, because if he doesn't, Satan is so cunning and so crafty that he would deceive the elect if it were possible. So we're there. We're waiting for a birth pain. This next birth pain, I can assure you, people are going to come flooding in. The people that hate us, I've had a lot of people that have hated me for preaching this that now fully understand it. And it's not my words. It's because we're teaching the truth. But most people are going to reject it. The world's going to reject the truth. That's the sad part about all of it.
Crazy thing was, today I was driving home and I saw a young gentleman riding on his little four-wheeler on the road, stopping and just picking up sticks off the road. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, man, where do you find time to do this? I feel like a month is going by in a week.
Me too. Same thing.
I feel like the months are just whizzing by. Like I can't keep up with it.
Yeah, the year just started, and I mean it's gone by so quickly, it's unreal. The main reason we wanted to come on, number one, is to clear up when you guys see us making videos and we're contending out here and we're going back and forth with people that are religious. It's not for their sake. It's for the people that are listening to them. And also so that we could come on here and share Scripture instead of giving our opinions. I've heard so many people run to opinions to try to prove their point or to try to discredit what Scripture says. And there's nothing more irritating to me when someone wants to argue, yet they haven't even made it past Genesis chapter 3 yet. That sets a fire in me like nothing else. But the fact is that there are people that are listening and there are people that are waking up. And that, again, when we first started, I'll speak for myself because Michael came in after, but when I first started, preaching this, I felt like I was losing my mind. I felt alone. And then I met Jason. Then I met Michael. Then I met a few other people, and we were all talking about the same thing. So again, this isn't about one person teaching someone else everything. No, this was about
No,
a whole bunch of people from all over the world waking up at one time. And it's happened twice that I know of. And it's going to happen again. As you guys see this next birth pain, just watch.
it's
Mark
gonna be
my
bad.
words. This
It's
next
gonna be
birth
bad.
pain is going to be bad.
It's gonna be real bad. They're already I just got a warning on my phone today of Trump warning of World War III
Yep.
while he's trying to pick fights with Canada and Greenland and Mexico and China
And Africa.
and Africa. Yeah,
Yeah, that's getting crazy.
nations rising again. Well, I'm sorry, kingdom is rising against kingdom.
Yep. Next comes we're already hearing the rumors of war. Next comes the physical war. Wars and rumors of wars. Earthquakes in diverse places. Tornadoes, hurricanes, floods, all kinds of stuff. The earth is in turmoil. The earth is a witness against us as well. Remember in Deuteronomy 30? I call heaven and earth to witness against you this day. Well, guess what? That's what the earth is doing. So we are where we are. And all the Trump people, listen, I don't care if you follow Trump or you followed Biden, all of politics is BS. If you guys are following politics, you're still living in the world. You have no idea what's going on.
Nope.
None of them are for you. And the people that say that either Trump or Biden, they're not trying to do harm, you guys have no idea who they are. You guys have no idea that they all work together. If you're involved in politics, this is not the place for you.
Just think about it, guys. Think about it for 1 second. Trump originally came in. He said, "Oh, I'm going to build this wall. We're going to stop. We're going to stop all this immigration." Day one, Joe Biden standing there during the inauguration comes up and says, "We're going to do away with white supremacy." And I remember the thought that popped in my head. I was like, "What the hell?" That was the first thought that popped in my head. I was like, "What the hell is this dude talking about? White supremacy? Why is he even bringing that up? Like that just came out of nowhere."
Yeah.
And then what happened? He just completely opened the borders, and all these thousands and thousands of people coming in on buses. They had apps on their phones. People overseas, all they had to say is, "I want to go to USA," and they get a free flight. Thousands and thousands, millions of people flooding, getting free housing, free hotels, free food, whatever they want, whatever their little heart desires, and taking away from the people who are working their asses off here in America to survive and provide for their families. These people were living in five-star hotels for free that are $400 a night for months, that on our dime.
And
And
what
then
happens?
for
What happens when you spoil those people and then you say, guess what? You got to go home. What do you think is going to happen eventually?
round them up. Trump comes back. "Oh yeah, let's go. Round them up. Get them out of here. They've been doing us all dirty." Guys, this is a playbook being played out before your eyes. They are deliberately pissing those people off to get them to start a riot. And they will eventually. While the Gazians and Palestinians are over here in this country watching our country support Israel that's destroying their country.
And how much money have we sent to Ukraine? Why are we sending money to Ukraine? We're arming them for a fake war that people think is happening. Media is
And
a
then,
powerful thing.
yeah, and it ain't even just here in America, guys. It's literally Canada, UK, all these nations, Australia, every caucasus nation got flooded with the same exact descendants that flooded our nation. That's not a coincidence.
And
And
they're
all
being
those
overrun. They're being
yeah,
overpowered. Yeah, we're not yet. They are.
this will be the last nation to fall, and they're trying to figure out a way to do it right now. Oh, that's why they've been writing all these gun laws.
Russia's the
This will be
same.
the last nation to fall. This is the Egypt that rises up like a flood, and it will fall.
Yep. We've been saying that for years. Once America goes down, it's over. And you think
And
about
Trump
all
is
the things that
on
go
the
on.
verge of pissing all them off, so we do go down. All these tariffs he's writing, that's not going to help us at all. It's going to break us, guys.
Also, they can introduce they introduce a problem and then they introduce a solution, which is how the beast system is going to arise, and that's when Satan will rise to power. 3 years into tribulation, 3.5 years, and then for those of you that are still in your churches and synagogues, you're going to be drug out into the street and slain right there. You guys need to pay attention to what's going on. Yahweh said, come out of the church. Come out of her, my people, lest you partake in her plagues. And people just still don't get it. They're still buying into the lies and the nonsense of the Antichrist.
I didn't even tell you, Adrian, and just so everybody else knows, I got a random Indeed message. A lot of people know that I'm a very experienced welder. I'm highly certified to do any kind of welding. And I got a random message on my phone from SpaceX. They're doing a massive hiring right now.
Well, there's a
And they
lack
were
of
looking,
welders. There's a lack in every single electricians, welders, plumbers. Nobody wants to work. So now we've got all these people that they need to engineer the beast system, which, by the way, that's on the forefront. AI. You've got priests. You've got churches now where you can go to a confessional and talk to an AI Jesus. Guys, if you're not seeing what's happening, Daniel 12 talks about this, that knowledge would increase and people would go to and fro. Knowledge is not just increasing for the children of Israel, it's increasing for the children of Satan as well.
Nexie dope, that's all a distraction. You're listening to people that are going to send you straight to hell. All they're doing is deceiving you with that nonsense. That's all it is. That's all it is. You need to be focused on you and your relationship with the Father and getting right. Not worried about what those people that are so called, what they are over there. You need to be focused on you and your relationship. Because I'm telling you right now, I could pull up 5 prophecies on the back of my hand showing you that that place is going to be one of the first to go.
It's going to be a heap is what it's going to be.
A heap of, yeah. It's going to be rubble. Destroyed. And all those that think that they're going to go there and be safe, they're going to be destroyed with it.
I don't know why, again, people, the measurements of the land are given in Scripture. Go see if those measurements fit in that land if you think that's the land. Go see. Go measure it out. It's not hard to do. Michael said this, and I'm going to say it now again. If you flee from any other country and you try to get back to the promised land before it's time to go, you will die. If they who are there in the land try to flee and come here or go anywhere else, they will die. There is a time to exit and leave, and if you do it prematurely, you are going to die. It's that simple.
Yeshua made that very clear. And he made it very clear. Don't go. When you see them surrounded, don't go there. And it ain't that place over there either. And
No.
they're being surrounded right now in the real land.
Yeah, and Michael and I have got to see firsthand what it looks like when they get attacked. And I can tell you, you guys, it's something that you probably wouldn't even be able to fathom that another person could do to someone.
Yep. And when Yeshua, let me just put it this way. When Yeshua said men's hearts will fail them from the things that they will see, you best better bet he meant what he said. There's some ruthless people out there that have no care for life and have no fear of blood or have a blood guilt in them. I can assure you that.
How many people have noticed all of a sudden especially on TikTok and on some of these documentaries, they're showing you all of these Venezuelan gangs and in their prisons, how they're all in one room And there's all these different people that are going in there and interviewing them and talking about how their eyes are black and there's nothing there, right? These are the worst of the worst, MS-13 and all these different gangs, but they keep showing you how they're housing them, right? What happens when they get let out?
A
I
lot of them
know, I
did.
used to work in a prison. When no one's there, believe me, the prisoners run all of those. It's not the officers, it's the prisoners. Anytime they want to get out of there, they can. They have the numbers to do it. And when they start showing you on the media people that are caged, stacked on like 5 high bunk beds, no mattress, no shirts, no nothing, those people are going to be pressed. And when the bottomless pit opens up, they're coming out of there. And what Michael just said about men's hearts failing them, that's exactly what he means. Men's hearts are going to fail them because of the things they're going to be seeing done to the people around them.
You should have
It's
seen
not.
what happened. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I was done. Go ahead.
You guys should see what happened to the prison breaks over there in Africa and how many women were ravished and unalived.
And
Innocent
then
people.
burned
And then
alive.
burned.
Right there.
For no reason.
Their own people.
They break out of prison, immediately started ravishing women and unaliving them and burning them alive.
Female prisoners. The male prisoners broke out and broke into the female facility and started graping them and unaliving them and then burned them alive.
And if you actually take a, like, let me give you an example. Georgia State Prison. Just take a look at what's going on there. They're not being fed there. They're not being welfare. Like Adrian said, the prisoners run the prison, and they are unaliving each other. You know how many videos I've seen of prisoners that took videos there of the prisoners unaliving each other, and they're just left dead there for 15, 20 something hours because the police are too afraid to even step foot in there.
Well, in some of those
Bodies,
places, the officers are actually they put on these fights and they allow the inmates to fight without gloves, bare knuckle fights. They force them to fight, and they take bets and wagers and all that on it. So they're preparing these vessels so that when the bottomless pit opens up, those demons that come up out of the pit, those vessels, the bodies have to be prepared to receive those demons. Remember, those demons have been trapped for a long time. When those spirits come out of the pit, they're not bugs. They're not locust bugs. They are spirits that are going to enter these nations. These nations are then going to do things that you can't even fathom. That's what prophecy says.
unalive your children right in front of your face. Grape your wife right in front of your face.
Deuteronomy 28. Deuteronomy 28. Go read the curses in Deuteronomy 28. That's exactly what's going to happen. All of it.
Isaiah 13.
Yeah.
Jeremiah, what is it?
It's in every book. It's in every
single book. It tells you exactly what they're going to do. And they are specific nations, regardless if people want to accept that or not. But they are. And they're doing it. They're doing it right now. Literally, you're watching prophecy being fulfilled before your eyes. And it's only going to get worse. There is no way in hell, people, that we are going back. It's only going to get worse from here. It's impossible to go back. And that's exactly why Yeshua has to come. Because he and the 144 are going to be the only people that can correct this brokenness on this earth, because it is not going to get better. There is no political candidate that's going to step in and fix it. And if there is, you better turn your face away from him very quickly.
Yeah.
When he comes, you know that it's time. And I'm not saying Donald Trump is the AC. No, he's not. He's definitely deceiving a lot of people to think he is. He's doing a damn good job at it. You know how many people have had to help with that? A lot. So many people think he's the Antichrist. No, the Antichrist is sitting right there in every Sunday synagogue in America. He's hanging on a cross with thorns on his head, and everybody worships him. Believe it or not. I'm not saying the Messiah is the Antichrist. No, no, no. Don't twist my words. The church's viewpoint of the Messiah is the Antichrist.
Lawless.
The image that we've been given by the world is the Antichrist.
He's lawless. People say we don't have to keep the law. They've changed the day we keep the Sabbath. Now the Sabbath is every day. This was prophesied in Daniel. It's happened. It's already here. The Messiah said, I came in my Father's name, and you receive me not. If another comes in his own name, him you will receive.
Is the Messiah the high priest or not? Yeah, he's the high priest. So let me ask you guys something. Where in prophecy was it anointed for a pope to be the high priest of the world? Where is that in prophecy? Because nothing can be done unless it's revealed through the prophets first. Ain't no matter can be done. And who tries to be just like God? So if Satan is trying to be just like the Father, don't you think he might have a high priest for him? And who is that high priest? And who is that high priest? Levites of the world today. Well, just go down to your church. Those are his Levites.
Yeah. The great whore, the great harlot, drunken with the blood of the saints.
Caused all the nations of the earth to drink the wine of her cup. All nations, not some, not maybe here and maybe there, all the nations of the earth. Literally every single nation.
Your popes are just the modern day version of what Rome was when they had swords and shields. You guys understand? They were dispersed and broken apart, but they didn't go anywhere. They went right into the churches, and now they're controlling the world a different way. Rome is still here.
I come from Southern Baptism. I was a Southern Baptist all my life. And I can sit here and tell you they're no different than the Catholics, but yet they'll sit there and tell you, oh, we're different from the Catholics. Really? How so? They'll sit there and argue. You go to a Protestant church and then turn around and go. I'll tell you what, just test my theory, because I've already tested it multiple times. Go to a Bible study at a Protestant church, and then next week go to a Bible study at a Baptist church and tell me their Bible studies are not the same. I bet you my paycheck they are.
It's no different than the 40,000 different denominations of Christianity, and yet everybody believes that Christianity is the way.
Yeah, none of them agree with each other, but yet they all kind of teach the same thing.
Yeah. All part of the harlot. Well, listen, Michael, I would like to do another live with you. I know I just messaged Michael before I came on, and I asked him if he wanted to go live, and he said he was going to be getting ready around 8. It's way past my bedtime, guys, so
that's all right.
I'm going to get off of here. But Michael and I can do this more often. We'll actually go through. I mean, we've been talking quite a bit, but I think that it's good to talk sometimes because, again, we go through scripture all the time, but hopefully you guys are hearing the warning. You're hearing the shofar. It's being blown. We're pleading with people. Get back into covenant with the Father. Keep his commandments. And if it's something that you're not willing to do, then everything that we just said, that's what is awaiting you. And I'm not trying to do this on purpose to be fear-based or whatever, but scripture does say that we are to use the fear of Yahweh to pull people out of the flames, and that's what my intentions are.
That's the whole purpose of the birth pains, is
exactly.
to wake you all up and say, oh crap, what the heck's really going on here? I need to get back into the word.
And
but
it happens.
There's so many people deceiving people today. So many people that say it's the most soothing things, and they all use things like science. Like that gentleman the other night on my live, he kept trying to want to run to science when what does 1 Timothy 6:20 say? Don't listen to people that strive over such nonsense of science. Yeah, this gentleman was trying to continue to argue with me with science when I just wanted to go through the book.
I am very well versed on the phenotypes. I wish I would have been on while he was on. That I would have ripped him apart with that. But again, guys, there's over 150 different types in the two bodies from Genesis chapter 3. There's 150 differences in the two different bodies that came out of Eve. So understand that. Phenotypes are very interesting to study, but there's nothing that leads you to the truth more than just sticking to the word of Yahweh. It's very simple. You go to the word, let the word establish what the truth is. You don't have to run to science.
The book, Angela, the book of Isaiah makes it very clear on who you should fear when it says, "And they shall fear the name of Yahweh from the east to the west, when the nations shall come in, when the enemy shall come in like a flood." So are you supposed to fear the enemy, or are you supposed to be fearing Yahweh because you know his punishment's coming?
His punishment is
No.
coming for the wicked. His punishment is not coming for the remnant. We're going through correction right now. The remnant is going to be corrected, refined like gold and silver, tried like gold and silver. The 144 are going to get it even worse. But
Yep.
the point is, you shouldn't be fearing what's to come. You should be fearing Yahweh, and to fear Yahweh is to keep his commandments. So if you're doing that, and you're wholeheartedly doing that, like we have people that are claiming that they're keeping the Torah, and then we bring up, hey, you shouldn't be mixing your seed, and then they block us and get mad at us for it. You're
And then
being
turn around
partial.
and do exactly what the Torah says not to do: slander your brothers.
And that goes for anything. It's not just mixing seed. It's everything in the law. And there's not 613 laws or commandments that you have to keep. There's 10 commandments, and there are laws attached to that based on who you are, a man, a woman, a farmer. Where we don't have Levitical priests. Those laws don't apply. The sacrificial law is gone and done away with in Yeshua. The only way that you place yourself under the curse of the law is by not keeping and obeying the commandments. It's that simple. So it's not as difficult as the church has made it seem to be. It's not that big of a deal. It's very simple, as a matter of fact. But the hardest part is going through the sanctification process, which means you have to disconnect yourself from this world and the things of this world. And if you can't do that, even if it's another person, if you can't do that, you're not going to enter the kingdom of the Most High. That's what the Messiah said. So the people that are clinging to other people and being partial to the law and getting angry at us for it, that's not our problem. We've warned them. They don't want to hear it.
And it's really sad to watch.
It
Watch people
is.
start to grow up and watch the sun strike them and they die.
The last one, the lady that got mad, she's really knowledgeable. I mean, I really enjoyed her videos, but as soon as we shared truth with her, boom, she got angry. She blocked me. She got mad at Michael. She got mad at Emmanuel. I mean, and she didn't want to hear it. And it's all we're doing is blowing the shofar. We're not attacking anybody.
Nope. Trying to warn before the Messiah comes back so they don't get slaughtered by him because he's not going to tolerate it. You have a book right there. If you continue to try to follow the world's way of doing things, it's not. I mean, I already know though. It's people are going to fall. They're just going to fall. So those of you who are in here, you need to listen and be humble, show humility, and be honest. Don't try to lie to yourself. That's the worst thing you can do.
Pride.
That'll cause you to, yeah, that will cause you to fall back in further darkness. You can't do that, guys. You have to be honest. You have to be humble and meek about it, guys. You can't be like that. And then when somebody brings forth truth to you, according to the word and the word alone with witnesses and precepts, if you deny that, Yahweh made it very clear what he's going to do to you if you cast his words behind him or deny his truth. He's going to put you to sleep, not put you to sleep as in death. He's going to put you to sleep and slumber, and you're going to believe in your lie, and you're not going to be able to come out of believing in your lie until judgment. And then you're going to be like, oh boy, but didn't I do this? I kept your Torah, but he's going to say, well, what about this? Why were you partial in this?
Yeah.
There's no excuses, guys. Either you're in or you're out. Messiah made it very clear. Hot or cold. But since you're lukewarm, I'm going to spit you out of my mouth. So you better be hot, guys. Because I think the lukewarmers are going to get it worse than the colds.
Yeah, because the people that know and are just being disobedient, that's bad. That's bad. That's the worst place you can be. The people that don't know anything at all, that's different. You're only judged based upon what you understand, but you're also going to be judged whether or not you pursued after Yeshua to get to Yahweh. If you didn't even try, that's not going to be good either. But the people that know and deny, or they'll get to a certain point of knowledge and then they get blocked. They trip over the Messiah because they start denying truth because it goes against their feelings or it goes against who they're with or whatever the case is. If you have something, again, I don't want to keep bringing this up, but when you fully sell out to Yahweh, you're probably going to lose everything. And when I say
You
that,
will.
I mean you're going to lose your desires to do the things that you used to do. You're probably going to lose a lot of people around you because you're not going to be the same person anymore. It's something that we're told to do. We cannot be friends with this world. And if you're friends with the world, you're a part of the world. So for all of us that have been following Yahweh, it's like we've been getting hit back to back to back. But you know what happens? Through that, you maintain your peace. And you start seeing that as things come, Yahweh's always there. It looks bad, but he's always there. And I have never yet to this day has he let me down. Not once.
I gotta say for a witness because of what I've done and let go of everything and lost everything and gained so much more back. And I know that I'm probably gonna lose everything again, because the more we keep teaching the truth, the more likely somebody's gonna eventually try to turn us in, which is all prophesied to happen. But when you lay down at night and right before you go to sleep and you're just laying there, you'll feel him there. He's there. You'll feel him and you know he's there. And you'll know if you've done wrong because you know he won't be there. And the more you do his will, the more he'll be there. And let me tell you something, there is no greater comforting feeling that you'll ever feel on this earth when you know he's there with you every night. And you can
That's
just
so
fall
true.
asleep peacefully. You
So
can
true.
fall asleep peacefully. You don't have to worry. You don't have to stress. You don't have to sit there and say, am I doing this wrong? As long as you're doing what he's telling you to do, you can fall asleep so peacefully and you can feel him. He's right there.
You can even be like Michael and I both kind of went through similar stuff. You can watch your whole world crumbling around you and still be at peace. And again, for both of us, when we first started going into it, we were kind of at different places spiritually. I would say we're probably in the same place, pretty close now. But when I first started going into everything that I was going through, that was it made me panic. I was freaking out. And then the more I started realizing like there's nothing I can do about this, the more I started surrendering to Yahweh and the more I started trusting him, exactly what Michael just said. That's when I am most hit by everything that's going on in my life. As soon as my head hits that pillow, that's when I'm starting to think about everything. And if I'm not where I need to be, there is no peace.
There is no peace. You will be chastised, you will toss and you will turn and you will not sleep and you'll have the worst day the next day and it'll be on your mind all day. Been there, done that. Don't want to go through that again. And that's why I try to stay doing what he told me to do.
And one of the worst feelings is when he's there with you and then you go and do something stupid and he's not there. That is one of the most empty, lonely feelings I've ever experienced in my entire life.
Yep. And I'm a witness to that too. That's a terrible feeling, guys. Been there, done that too. But it's got to happen. It's got to happen that way. That's part of sanctification, guys. I had, this guy Steve was running around saying, "Ah, you deserve the chastisement." Good. Let the chastisement come, because you know what? The chastisement caused me not to do that shit again.
And scripture says that if you're not being chastised, you're a bastard. Yahweh, if you're not being chastised, Scripture, especially in the New Testament, it says those that Yahweh doesn't chastise are bastards. So if he's not chastising you, then you're not in the right place.
Mm-mm.
Anyways, I got to get off of here, guys. I'm crashing. So
I'm crashing too.
we'll
I was
uh
crashing
we'll
on my drive home.
we'll try to do another one. Maybe I don't know. We'll see. I won't be able to do it this Shabbat, but maybe next Shabbat we can try to do a teaching, or maybe sometime this next coming week, another night.
I want to
Yeah.
do one this Shabbat. I'm going to try to do one every Shabbat from here on out. I'm going to spend a whole day just doing it, whether on TikTok or in private, whichever. But
Awesome.
I'm definitely going to get it done because it's just something that
That'll give me a little bit of a break, man. That'll be awesome, bro. Because like I try to get on here as much as I can, but I've been like physically and spiritually just wore out lately.
I believe it. I mean, I did a teaching last Shabbat. I just did it privately while you were doing it on here on TikTok. I was going through some really heavy stuff. So,
That's good, man. I think it's time we start getting into some of the deeper stuff, but also I just don't want to leave anybody who's not on the meat of Scripture behind. That's my main concern.
true.
We
And
could talk about stuff that would probably blow people's minds, but I don't really care about that as much as I do care about people that are just keeping the commandments. That's all you need to
mhm.
do. It's not about what you know, it's about whether or not you're keeping the commandments. That's what Solomon said. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear Yahweh and keep his commandments. This is the whole duty of a man. That's
And
it.
remember, the lilies of the field will have more. What did he say? What was it
I don't know what you're trying to quote.
in Luke or in Matthew when he was talking about the parable? When he clothes the grass and the lilies there up in the grass will be more than Solomon. I can't remember the word he used
Oh
though.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I can't quote it either, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah, you guys, for people that are teaching, understand that we're all part of the same body. Don't look at any teacher and be like, "Oh, I wish I was in their position." No, you don't. Trust me, you don't. And
No,
I can guarantee that we probably wouldn't want to be in some of the positions that other people are in. Nobody has it better than the other. We're all going through the same stuff. And teaching has its downside. The blessing that came for me from teaching is watching other people that have stepped up and started teaching. That's taken a huge load off of my shoulders. It helps carry the weight. That burden's heavy when you're carrying it alone. But when other brothers and sisters start stepping up, it takes that load and makes it lighter and makes it much easier to carry. So I'm grateful that Michael, that you're on here, that you're teaching. And again, I know that Jason, he's trying to focus on the people and prepare his brothers and sisters that are right there in the land, because they have something heavy that they've got to deal with. We all have our own issues, but that everybody has a different thing that they have to go through, and it's a lot. So we need people teaching. We need people that are willing to step up, and even if it's just simple stuff, just stick to the milk of Scripture, because there's people as the next birth pain comes in, people are going to need to know basic stuff. They don't need to know all the meat of Scripture. They just need to know how to keep the commandments and be obedient. That's it. And
whatever Yahweh shows you in Scripture is what He wants you to know, and
that's
there's
it.
reasons behind it.
Yeah. Some are going to know more than others, and that's fine too. But everybody will know everything they need to know when the Messiah returns. You're going to be filled with wisdom and knowledge and understanding. You're going to have 1,000 years to grow in knowledge and become perfect. So don't strive for knowing everything. Strive for being obedient to the commandments and the laws that apply to those commandments, and that's it. Keep the Sabbath, eat clean, that's it. That's all there is to it. It's just loving the Father, being obedient. It's not it shouldn't be a burden to you. It should be something that you enjoy. Like Michael and I can guarantee you, every Friday when Friday comes around, we're looking forward to the Sabbath. We're looking forward to resting and breaking bread and getting into Scripture and studying. That's something you start. I crave that more than I do anything. I'm the guy that used to go past you on a motorcycle at 120 miles an hour on one wheel. That's what I used to seek. I'm not into that anymore. I don't care about all that stuff. I care about studying the word. So your heart will change, but that heart of stone has to be removed before it can reveal the law that's written upon it. So, anyways, I got to get off here, guys.
Yep.
Thanks for hopping on, Michael. Love you, brother. For everybody else, we'll see you guys as soon as we possibly can. We'll be back on, but I'm done for the night. I'm tapped out.
Yeah, I'm done too. Sorry.
No
I'm
problem,
just
man.
done. Have a good night, guys.
All right.
Love
Love you
y'all.
guys. Shalom.